You guys ready? All right, let's call to order this meeting of the Sturgis City Council tonight, October 20th, 6:30 p.m. Please stand with me and recite the pledge. Terry, would you lead us tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Brian, are you going to offer us a prayer tonight, please?
Let's pray. Father, I was just thinking as we said the Pledge of Allegiance, Lord, that in that pledge there's words, one nation, and under God and indivisible. And so, Lord, I just pray tonight that we would remember that we're under you, and we're to be one nation. And Father, I thank you for the Sturgis Town Council folks, Lord, and all the hard work they've been doing. I just pray, Father, that as we go through this meeting tonight, that you'd give wisdom and help them to hear and help them to speak as they should. And just, we say, Lord, you said a simple thing: if we acknowledge you in all our ways, all our paths, all the things that we do, you'll direct our path. And so, Father, I just pray that we're doing that tonight. We thank you again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brian. Third item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Is anyone willing to motion approval of the agenda or add to it if they need to?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We got a first by Alex, a second is presented. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. We have the agenda approved. Item 4 is announcements and praise. Councilor Thompson, would you read those tonight, please?
Surely will, and thank you, Deb, for putting this list together. Kind of an exciting week. Wednesday, the 22nd, day after tomorrow, the SEDC Investor Appreciation Social will be held at the Sturgis Brewing Company at 5 o'clock, 5 till 7, I believe. And that's Wednesday. And then on Friday and Saturday is the Holiday Bazaar at the Meade County Senior Citizen Center in Sturgis. That's from 3 until 7 on Friday, 8 to 2 on Saturday. Saturday is a chili cook-off at the Meade County Senior Citizen Center. That's from noon to 2. And on Saturday the 25th, the kids age 8 and up were invited to join the library for a spooktacular Halloween party from 1 to 3 at the Sturgis Public Library. You can come dressed in your favorite costume. Tony, there's your chance. Build your very own haunted house and play chilling games with costumed characters. I don't know if that'll live up to that, but we'll try. Then on Sunday, the Sturgis Golden K Kiwanis Annual Fall Fundraiser is going to be held. And that'll be a good evening. That's at the community center, all-you-can-eat hobo stew. Tickets are $10 at the door from 5 o'clock until 6:30. That's this Sunday. And if you're looking for good food besides that, then on Monday night, the Sturgis Alliance of Churches Chili and Soup Cook-Off will be held 4:30 to 6:30 at the Sturgis Community Center. And I'm going to be serving on that one as well. We've got chili from my church, so I'm going to be part of it. Is it too late to get into that? So if you're just hearing about it for the first time and you say, I make pretty good chili, check with Bill and he'll put you in touch with the person. It doesn't cost anything to enter to do that, and it's just a chance for people to, and good promotion, I think. And then Friday the 31st, downtown Sturgis Trick or Treat from 3 until 6. They'll have purple posters in the shop windows for anybody that's interested. Okay, that's my contribution for the moment.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any other members of council have any announcements or praise that they'd like to offer? How about members of the audience? Yes, ma'am?
Can I speak, because you can hear me?
Well, it'd be best if you would.
Knee replacement, and then I have some things going on with my shin. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but they can't hear you online, so we'll get you a microphone.
Just give me grace a moment.
Test, test.
Just stay where you are, Beth, and we'll bring that mic to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth Bartlett. I'm Ward 3. And I really, really want to thank
Rick.
Rick so much and his crew for doing our city cleanup. And it just means a lot. You know, they came by twice at our house and we only had, you know, our essential things for our, you know, garbage days, but they even came up twice. And I just want to make it clear that he's so appreciated and his crew's appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you. Good words for our Public Works team. Is there anyone else from the audience that has an announcement or praise they'd like to offer? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to item 5. Item 5 is non-agenda matters that may come before the council. If you have a non-agenda item and want to approach the council, please do so. Tony, will you take over for a second?
Council, I'm Dr. Bill Myrose. I'm at 170 Old Stone Road, but I'm here tonight with the Alliance Churches just to talk about the chili feed just a little bit. And I handed all of you one of these sheets of paper that just kind of lets you know what the benefit of the Alliance has done. In 2024, we distributed almost $19,000 to people for benevolence programs here in the city of Sturgis. And that was to over 400 people, and for an average of about $47.32 a piece. All of those funds were donated to us, or we applied for grants for those things. I'm not here to ask for money tonight, so you could just relax. But I will take your money a week from now at the chili feed. Our main funding comes from the potato feed, which we hold in the spring, and then the chili feed. We look for community grant programs and then contributions from churches and individuals. And if you look at the second page, there's a breakdown of the assistance that we gave over in 2024. We separated the water out of the utilities just so that you know that that goes right back into the city. We paid over $3,000 to individuals here to help with their water bills within the community. The utilities is MDU and propane, things like that. That does not include the electrical because that comes out of the Salvation Army funds, but we apply for those and then we get those to pay those bills. And that was $6,500. That comes off of that little thing that you donate on your electric bill if you round up. That's where that money comes from. That stays within the community. If you look at the prescriptions, we didn't pay $425,000. It was $425. I got a comma instead of a period there. And but that's what the Alliance does. We're on track this year to be giving about the same amount of money out for the benevolence needs within the community. I invite you all to come down. If you like to make chili, if you like to eat chili, come on down on Monday night. It's a it's a contest. The winners get a 1-gallon can of beans. And the way you win is each dollar is a vote. And we encourage cheating. So, because all of those funds go into the benevolence that we offer through the Alliance of Churches. And I just wanted to take a moment just to tell you what we do and answer any questions that you might have of me, and just invite you all down next Monday night.
Great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else having a non-agenda item they'd like to approach the council on? Anybody from council? All right, we'll continue on to item 6, our department updates. 6.1 is staff update on 2025 utility billing.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. Here tonight to provide you an overview of our utility billing audit. that Public Works conducted in 2025 and present our recommended 2026 utility rate structure to the council and to the Municipal Utility Board for review. So earlier this year, the Public Works was tasked with conducting an internal audit of our utility billing accounts as part of the city's annual rate and performance evaluation. This audit ensures accuracy, compliance, and transparency in billing practices across the city's water, sewer, and sanitation accounts. We did identify some errors that were being billed in the commercial sewer billing. This was primarily due to some conflicts in the software when it was originally configured, that it would not allow for any billing. You get 9,000 gallons included in your base rate, but there were some settings that were set that didn't allow anything to ever of the base minimum rate on our commercial accounts. Additionally, we did find some discrepancies in some service line classifications. As you know, we have our rate structure is based on what size of service line you have. And from time to time, we would come up with these when we would have to replace a meter, and we would see that we have a 2-inch meter or a 4-inch, and they were only being billed for a 1-inch meter. So we have corrected those. And they also come into account on the units. Everything is based off of, when we talk about surcharges and we talk about availability, it's based off of units, and a 1-inch service line is 1 unit, but a 2-inch is multiple units, and so on and so forth. So as of right now, all of the billable unit errors have been corrected to the right. We're not proposing to do any back billing to occur, and the adjustments that will go forward on the commercial accounts, we're proposing to start those January 1, moving forward with the correct billing, not back billing anything. So that primarily was the commercial sewer accounts that were billed incorrectly. We had some misapplied line sizes, and the residential water and sanitation billing were verified to be accurate. In the future, we're going to do some quarterly spot audits. This will help us to maintain the system accuracy and compliance. So that was kind of what we discovered and maybe not audit is maybe not the right way of it. It was just an internal, just us looking at the accounts and trying to determine any discrepancies. So I'd pause there to answer any questions on that part of it before we start looking at the 2026 rate recommendations.
Any questions for Rick? Rick, I think this was accomplished because you actually collaborated pretty extensively with the finance office and got into a position that you hadn't had previously, where you were able to actually do this tongue-in-cheek auditing.
Correct. I mean, we're now, I guess I look at it, we're working more as a team, and we're able to now see some things that we weren't able to see. And again, when you think about it, and as we're looking, the gals and guys in finance, and units, and we do, because we're out working on it. We know what the line size is. We know what the meter is. They're simply just looking at a list going, yep, checks the box. So again, that collaboration is certainly important, and certainly will help and address our revenues in those enterprise funds. We want to, again, we don't want to overbill people, but we want to correctly bill people as well. So was certainly an eye-opener, in the fact that this had been going on since the implementation of Cassell. That's probably where it's like, wow, wish we would have caught this. Everything up to this point was being done correctly. They were entering in the right rates, and every year there was no staff issues with it. It was simply an implementation error. When we originally set up Cassell, it wasn't set up correctly. So worked with Cassell to identify that and fix it and rectify it. So we've got a good plan for going forward, for sure.
Thank you.
Moving on to the 2026 rate recommendations. based on some of those findings that we had and making some of those corrections, there will be some substantial revenue increases based for residential or commercial accounts. We're going to hold that flat. Last year, we did do an increase of 3% for residential and 5% for commercial. This year, we're planning no increase. In addition to that, in looking throughout the region, one of the other things that we felt that it was probably prominent to do is with our base rate, you pay the base rate and then you pay per 1,000 gallons of water and sewer without anything included in the base rate. And so what we're looking at proposing to the MUB next week is that our base rate will stay flat. And in addition to that, we're going to include 2,000 gallons of water without that extra cost. And that will affect roughly about a little over a third of our accounts. And so a third of our accounts, which typically if they're using 2,000 gallons or less of water, that's generally going to be some of our elderly account holders, some of our account holders on a fixed income. Their monthly base rate will actually go down. Then from that, we are going to increase and adjust our per 1,000 gallon rate. And what that means is we track on our utility costs, our chemical costs, all of the costs that it costs us to produce a gallon of water, and we figure out what that rate is. It's not exact science, but we try to get as close as we can. And so what we are proposing with that after that 2,000 gallon would be a 1,000 gallon rate for residential that would go from $2.52 to $3.25. And for commercial, it would be $2.83 to $3.50. And to put that into real life, I pulled my account, and I tend to like to have a green yard. I have an irrigation system, and I run it sometimes daily, sometimes every other day. And for me, based on this new rate per month when I'm watering in the summer months, my bill would go up $5.67 per month. So again, this is a way that we can, water has been in the news quite a bit lately. And so again, what we're trying to do, by increasing our per 1,000 gallon rate at some level, it starts to come into some water conservation measures. Again, it's only going to affect the higher users more than it will the lower users. And those are probably the people that we need to have some kind of conservation efforts to try and curb that. And myself included, maybe I don't need to water every day. Maybe it's every third day. So I think that's a good thing. Sewer and sanitation, we're not anticipating a rate change for 26 on either of those. Some of the rationale behind this is it maintains affordability and rate stability, promotes water conservation, as I talked about, for the high usage customers, protects the fixed income and elderly residents whose use fall within that base rate allowance, and it assures adequate revenue for operations, debt coverage, and capital improvements. In the packet that I presented to you, I did give you some regional comparisons for other communities. And again, when you talk about rates and water in particular, the gamut is all over the board. I mean, not two communities don't charge the same. And some of that is in the base rate amount. Some of it's in the amount of gallons you get. Some of it's in the per 1,000 gallon rate. So it's really hard to be an apples to apples comparison with another community. Part of what we're doing, not only with the rates, but part of more so with the accounts and some of the auditing that we found in your packet. There's also what was addressed as a utility letter that explains the audit findings and the rate adjustments. We are planning to publish that in the Sturgis Information Publication newsletter so that it's mailed out in advance to all the customers, so there shouldn't be any shock to them. I mean, again, this will be something that we'll be proposing for January 1st, so their first bill that they would see it would be in February. This updated structure does balance financial stability with affordability, and ensures the city's utility funds remain sustainable and minimizing customer impacts. So the next steps for this is presenting it to the MUB, and they will make a formal recommendation back to the council. MUB meeting is scheduled for October 28th, so next week, and then we'll be coming back to the city council at some time in the future to ratify those rates for 2026. A lot more information in the staff report. I'd be happy to go over any of that, or if you have any questions. That's just kind of a high-level overview of what we've been doing with that piece of it.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions from council?
I think that's good information, Rick. Thank you very much. That'll be great to be in the newsletter as well. I think that'll solve a lot of the
For sure.
possible probable questions. Good job.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.2 is informational report, general review of the Board of Adjustments. Eric Davis, you've got a report on our agenda for that.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to go through it. It's in your packet. Wanted to prepare just a really brief memo for the council and for the public. Received some questions on what is a Board of Adjustment, why do we have one, what's its authority, what's its jurisdiction, where does that legal authority come from? So just a real quick memo that kind of goes through the voting requirements, explanation of what the Board of Adjustment is, what its powers are. Usually, it's a quasi-judicial entity, usually limited in its jurisdiction to deciding appeals, granting variances, granting conditional use permits. So as it indicates in the memo, operates more like a court than a legislature. We do have a Board of Adjustment hearing tonight. Wanted you to have an understanding of what that was. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Eric. I guess I think the most important piece for me is in some cases we've got to be very cognizant of how this process works, as opposed to how you would think an elected official is taking a position. You're not to be going and making decisions beforehand over at a site with with some neighbors or something like that.
There are special rules that come into place with quasi-judicial proceedings, and it is difficult both to navigate and to understand this statutory mechanism of when you're all sitting up there now, you have your legislators, you are elected by the people to enact general public policy for the city. But when you're sitting as a Board of Adjustment, again, you're taking off that elected official hat that is only representing its constituents, and instead, in some ways, putting on a judge's robes, and you are applying facts to the law. And so that is kind of the procedure that you can think about as we adjourn from the City Council and move into a Board of Adjustment hearing.
Thank you. Is there any questions, Eric, on your report? Good work, Eric. Thank you. Item 7 is the mayor's report. I guess I'd like to start off by saying that our first meeting in November will be our first reading of our budget. We're in the final budget assembly. We'll have a complete package on the agenda. Right at this point, it's looking like we've had to make some additional cuts from the 2025 budget because predicted revenue is not as high as what we would hope for 2026. So that's causing us to make decisions. And we've had lots of input from our departments, and the same departments have been being involved in the process of trying to come up with a structurally balanced budget. And of course, a lot of that heavy lift has been completed by Administrator Jordan. So the next meeting will be a heavy discussion on our budget for 2026. Beyond that, we've got items 7.1 through 7.3 are payroll items. The first two have paramedics part-time and EMTs part-time, as well as some referees for our recreational center activities that we're hosting over the cold months here. Any questions on any of those payroll actions? Item 8 is our consent agenda. We'll consider that as a whole. There's 2 items on the consent agenda tonight. Does anyone wish to remove one of the items and have it considered separately? Member of the audience? If no one wishes to have the consent agenda split in any way, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Got a first by Nick, a second by Jim to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Item 9 is approval of the claims. $1 million worth of claims tonight. And do you have anything to add to the claims?
I don't. There wasn't anything unusual. We had, of course, some capital improvement projects, those things. But other than that, they're just what need to be paid.
Any members of council have questions on the claims?
During the rally, Mayor, I worked, as many of us did, at the information booth, and a lot of the information, not complaints, but information that came to us from the public was that our website was not updated. And I'm curious as to the responsibility for that. Is that, I know, Deb, you do a lot of that stuff, but that's not necessarily your primary, is it?
I do the city website, and then we contract for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally with Home Slice. Which one are you talking about?
Well, I was talking about the motorcycle rally. So, and my question is that bill is pretty regular, but are we getting that? Does anybody get to follow up on that? I know you had a meeting, as I understand.
I've been pushing pretty hard on the rebuild of the website. The framework that site was built on was aged to the point that we were struggling to get it updated. And right, wrong, or indifferent, somebody made an update that crashed the web page and didn't have a current backup. So a backup that had some dated information had to be restored. And of course, everyone was pretty diligent about trying to get it done. But the outcome is that we are very close to launching a entire new site built on a platform that will carry us through for years to come.
So is that just the rally, or is that also the city?
It's just the motorcycle rally
Okay.
page. I think some people would think that we probably could do an uplift to our main city site as well. But unfortunately, we probably are going to have to use Administrator Jordan's terminology. That website, I think, is a little bit of a rubber ball. If we drop it, it's going to bounce for us for a little bit. It's not like some of these other items that if we drop them, it'll break.
Well, my question was the money that we get, that we pay, is that doesn't appear to have been taking care of the rally information. I just was wondering if that was, do we keep paying that if it's not being done?
Well, there is a contract, so both parties have to complete their portions of the contract. And as of right now, I'm pushing very hard to get this webpage launched within the next 2 weeks.
And is that Home Slice?
That is.
Okay. So you're comfortable with where we are, at least?
Well, we're following through our end, and they're working within the confines of the contract, so they're working well for us. The new site looks good.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is Someone willing to motion the claims?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Got a first by Mark, a second by Nick. We'll go ahead and just do the roll call on the claims tonight, just $1 million. Mark?
Yes.
Did you forget my name?
Ruth?
Yes.
Momentarily. Jesse?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Nick?
Yep.
All right, claims passed unanimously. Item 10 is Board of Adjustments. So at this point, we were going to adjourn council and convene as the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment agenda is consideration of a side setback requirement abutting a residential zoned area for Jill Edson at 1800 Main Street. We just go straight into it. So we're going to the record. This time I will identify the record for the Edson case. The record currently includes everything contained in the public packet and includes applications and site plans, planning commission, staff reports, attachments and minutes, the Board of Adjustments staff report and attachments, proof or notice of publication, mailings and site postings, and written public comments received to date. Are there any additions to the record?
Nope.
At this point, I'm going to ask the members to please disclose any ex parte communications or materials you received and may rely not already contained in the record. Has anyone received anything that isn't part of the record already?
You're talking about emails we got or phone calls?
Correct.
Yeah, I ended up with three emails and one phone call.
I think, have you communicated that?
Just, Mayor,
Yes,
for the council's information, I did field a couple phone calls. I know it's a bit of a different procedure and can be a little bit confusing. The requirement that's set forth in the memo is the statute requires the members of the Board of Adjustment to disclose any outside communications or materials or site visits that they may have conducted. The statute contemplates this idea that elected officials might also be serving in the role of a Board of Adjustment. The only thing that needs to be disclosed is anything that's not in the record that you're going to rely on in tonight's meeting. It is we are aware that constituents reach out and express their own opinions, but again, this is the difference between a constituent's opinion on the variance and whether you received any other facts that due process would require the applicants and the public to be aware of. So you're certainly welcome to disclose. I had comments, phone calls, emails from neighbors expressing their concerns similar to what's contained in the record. If there's nothing in that record that you intend to rely on or that is otherwise different from the record, it doesn't need to be disclosed in detail. If you went out and did a site visit, for example, that is something that would need to be disclosed. But again, the law presumes that as elected officials, you're capable of judging this matter fairly based on the record and without consideration of extraneous materials.
Thank you, Eric. Myself, I've had 3 conversations with Tim Edson since the first of the year, so none of them specific to making any judgments on this. And as chair, I'm not voting on any of this, so I myself do not see a conflict. Without any further declarations, then I guess we'll ask for the applicants to approach the dais and make a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Kellen Willert. I'm an attorney from Belle-Fourche, and I represent the Edsons in trying to assist them to get this variance request granted. I've just a few comments on the staff report. And this was addressed at the planning commission level as well, but it indicates that there's an easement, a sewer easement across my client's property. We've been unable to locate any recorded easement for that. My client's willing to work with the city to try and resolve that, but you can see it in that schematic there. That dotted line is the sewer main that really divides up the property and makes some issues with the setbacks. For example, that 12-foot setback, I believe, is what the city wants to have in relation to that sewer line itself. Obviously, it would be a very large expense for the city if you were to have to move that sewer line. So again, there's no recorded easement. We don't want to make it an adverse issue, but it is something my client's willing to work with the city on if the city is willing to work with him as well. My other question about the staff report, which may be addressed later, it indicates that a conditional use permit would be needed for my client to perform other work within the setbacks. My reading of your ordinances is the setbacks pertain to infrastructure, buildings, not necessarily doing work. And that's in paragraph E3 of that report. Or actually, that's your conclusions of law. So if somebody could clarify that for me, that'd be great. Otherwise, I can just keep going.
I'm not able to clarify that. That's something you can do, Eric?
We'll have Rick address it.
Okay.
Thank you. And I just want to emphasize this body's not bound by prior determinations. Yes, similar requests were brought forward to this body in the past. And also I want to emphasize that the neighboring property, the neighboring residential property is vacant. Well, I say vacant, there's not a house on it. I think there's a shed on it. And that's really, in my opinion, where these setbacks are important. It's for that adjacent property. That neighbor has not voiced, as far as I know, any concern about the request or anything like that. And then if you look in your packet, there's some opposition letters. There was a gentleman that appeared at the Planning Commission, and he was actually in favor of it, and he was requesting that the city give my client a chance to, pursue his dream of doing what he's asking to do. But if you look at those opposition letters, the real gripe seems to be that it's a welding shop, which is a permitted use as of right. There are a few comments about the setback, but by and large, the complaints from those neighbors are about a welding shop. And part of the reason my client is requesting the size of shop is so that he can conduct all of his operations indoors, which I think most people would realize for that type of operation that actually benefits the neighbors as opposed to doing some of that work outdoors, which would be louder and potentially more disruptive to the neighbors. My client has been in the welding business for quite some time, and I'll have him talk about that here in a little bit. Before I do that, however, I would just ask, your packet has what I would assume is proposed findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decision. And I'm just curious who drafted that and why there's not a version that grants the variance.
I can answer that. I participated in drafting the proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law with Rick, who's the interim planning director. This is going to be one of the new procedures that I'm recommending to the Board of Adjustment. The decision to draft the findings and conclusions in the way that they did are just a decision that I made on drafting proposed findings and conclusions that are based on the staff report and the Planning Commission hearing. They are draft. There is absolutely nothing binding the Board of Adjustment to any of these. Of course, they were prepared in advance of the hearing, and so again, they're prepared only based on the staff report and the public hearing at the Planning Commission, not based on the public hearing tonight. So they're drafts meant to guide the Board of Adjustment's decision. If the Board of Adjustment wanted to grant this variance in part or in whole with conditions, we would take that information that's informed by this meeting, if the decision was contrary to staff's recommendation in the Planning Commission, and draft new proposed findings and conclusions that would be presented to the board at a future meeting. There is no requirement that the board has to decide this variance request at this meeting. I believe the statutory requirement is 30 days. And so if it is the board's desire to make any changes to the proposed findings and conclusions, to include granting the variance with different findings and conclusions, staff would take that and prepare a new draft for the board at its next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. That clears that up. So at this time, I would just welcome my client to tell you folks a little bit about himself, his experience welding, his experience building shops and operating in them.
This is a third state since 1994 when I went on my own in Michigan. I built a shop there on a piece of dirt, started from nothing. It was successful there, and then in 2011 we went up to North Dakota in the oil boom, and I purchased property up there and built a shop again from bare dirt and continued with the same business being successful. I bought my place in 2015 in Boulder Canyon. It was supposed to be just for personal, and I bought the property in town and called the city. Is it zoned for this? Yep, no problem. When I went to pull the permit, Karina, hey, you know, you got a sewer line running through there. Huh, no. That's what started this sewer line stuff. Well, we did our due diligence and went to the county and looked for easements and right-of-ways, anything posted, nothing there. So that's why we're here with this. Now, you know, we're trying to figure this. Whose fault is it? Is it the city's fault that sewer line's there and there's been no easement or right-of-way recorded? Is it my fault? I bought it. I paid for it. There's nothing recorded. I wrote a check for the property, so I didn't have a title company going, but if a title company did the work, they'd do the same thing we did. Went to the county, the records, looked for easements, looked for nothing. So that's where we are now with this easement. Whose fault is it? Is it mine? I mean, shouldn't the city take some responsibility on this instead of just saying, oh, it's a prescriptive easement? What, so you guys can dig a sewer line somewhere and not put an easement on it and just go, oh, it's prescriptive? My thoughts on the prescriptive is it's something visual, something you can see. I can't see a sewer line. I can see power lines. If there were power lines there, I'd be, oh yeah, there's power lines. These guys are gonna have to get in and work on this. Is that gonna affect my plans of building a building there? Well, it might. Not seeing a sewer line, how am I supposed to know? You know, who's just somebody take some responsibility or somebody work with me. I had a deal with Karstensen earlier. This could all have been avoided. All these citizens here that are upset with me to come in here, this could have been avoided. We had a deal with Karstensen and it fell through at the last minute. We wouldn't be sitting here now. But, you know, here we are.
And Tim, what would the impact be if you were forced to build something smaller than what you're proposing?
Well, I'd be having to work outside on it. I mean, my past, if you guys could go you can't now, but my other businesses that I've had, you couldn't tell they were welding shops. It wasn't, I don't know what these guys got, you know, what's in their mind of a welding shop, but not my shop, you know, what they're saying. But, you know, I get it, you know, I get it.
And would you be willing to, put up a privacy fence on the border with that residential lot or other conditions? Would you be willing to work with the city on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so just to close, I just want to go through your factors in your ordinance in terms of granting a variance. The first one is that granting the permit will not be contrary to the public interest. I think most people can realize that doing any kind of operation indoors would benefit the neighbors, and that's what my client's trying to do here. So granting the permit would actually be in furtherance of the public interest. The second factor is that literal enforcement will result in unnecessary hardship. My client, he's coming to you trying to build a larger building, which would increase the value of that property and your tax basis in it. Unnecessary hardship would be, one of the recommendations here was to find a different location. He shouldn't have to do that. This is a permitted by right use, and the neighbor is not opposed to the setback variance. Factor 3 is that it's in the spirit of the ordinance. Again, this would allow the operations to be fully indoors, and that is in the spirit of the ordinance to the neighborhood next door. And lastly, that granting the permit, or by granting the permit, substantial justice will be done. I think it's in everybody's best interest who has a lot out there for this type of shop to be indoors instead of having to do some of the operations outdoors or trying to store stuff outdoors. It just makes sense. The lot to the west of this lot is a big, I don't know, a grain elevator or whatever it is. It's been a while since I've been over there, but it's nothing too different from that neighborhood going to the west. You've got CBH and stuff over there too. And with that, we would respectfully request this body grant the variance. Again, my client's here to answer any questions that you might have as well.
Any questions? Okay, well, at this time then, I'll ask staff to present their report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight's item is a request from Tim and Jill Edson for a variance to the side yard setback requirement at 1800 Main Street. This property is zoned highway service, but it abuts a residential zoning district, triggering a 25-foot side setback per city title 18-05-12, the city's zoning ordinance. The applicants are requesting reduce this side setback from 25 feet to 13 feet, which requires a 12-foot variance. The location of this property is on the corner of 8th Street and Main Street, legally described as Lot E in the west 33 feet of the vacated 8th Street right-of-way, Block 7 of Ash Extension. The property is approximately 16,000 square feet and is currently vacant. Everything from this property to the west is zoned highway service, and everything from this property to the east is zoned as medium-density residential. Historically, this lot was used as a gas station in the 50s and 60s, which explains the highway service zoning designation. The variance history, this is the third variance request for the same or similar setback. In April 2022, the request to reduce the setback from 25 feet to 7 feet was denied. April of 2023, the request to reduce the setback from 25 to 13 feet was denied. Now in October of 2025, the current request is identical to that proposal in 2023. Each prior denial did cite the need to preserve the 25-foot buffer between commercial and residential uses. As you heard tonight, the applicant's justification is the existence of an 8-inch city sewer main line, and the associated easement that's necessary for it creates an exceptional physical condition that limits the buildable area on that lot. They propose that the variance is necessary to reasonably use the land for a welding shop, a use that is permitted by right under highway service zoning. Planning Commission met on October 7th, 2025 at 5:30, and they did consider this variance request. The public was allowed to comment, and then multiple letters of concern that were received from the staff were read into the record. Some of those concerns, both from the public comment and from the letters read into the record included noise and traffic impacts for a commercial welding business near homes, potential reduction in property values, erosion of residential neighborhood character and safety, and the perception that the business use would be more appropriate in an industrial park setting. Again, I did read the letters received into the record. After the staff presentation, the applicant remarks, and the public comment, a motion was made and unanimously approved to recommend denial of the variance by the Planning Commission. The commission based its recommendation on three primary findings. The 25-foot setback provides an essential buffer between commercial and residential uses. The sewer easement does not constitute an exceptional hardship or deprive reasonable use. The request does not meet the variance criteria under Title 18, Article 7, Section 3. And again, in the packet, you do have a copy of the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Some of our staff analysis was that the setback is intended to mitigate noise, light, and activity from commercial operations that impact residential properties. Reducing it to 13 feet would defeat the buffer's intended purpose and conflict with the comprehensive plan. The property remains buildable within the existing setbacks. A smaller or reoriented building would be constructed without a variance. Staff finds the request does not meet the standards for hardship or minimums. Both the staff and the Planning Commission's recommended that the variance be denied based on the lack of demonstrated hardship, availability of the reasonable alternative site design, potential negative neighborhood impact, and the failure to satisfy the variance standards under city code. The purpose of this review is not to determine land use. The welding shop is permitted by right, but whether the requested reduction in the buffer or the setback meets the variance criteria. The intent of the ordinance is to balance commercial opportunity with residential protection, and staff believes
Rick, in the 50s and 60s, when there was a service station there, were there houses there as well?
Hard to believe I wasn't alive in the 50s or 60s, but I do remember as a kid when that service station was still there. I have seen some records that show that used to actually be the road that went to Deadwood. That's how you got to Deadwood. Lozelle didn't exist, and that was the road that led over to the short track and up. That could be one of the reasons why there isn't a recorded easement. Typically, when you dealt with city and state, because that would have been a state highway, there are no recorded easements. That's pretty common. Between government entities, there's a lot of times they don't record easements. So that's about all I know. Again, it's looking through old history documents. We did find some records that we maintain at Public Works that do show that sewer line in existence in the 50s and 60s, so it's been there a considerable amount of time. It's not like we went in there when somebody wasn't looking and dug a sewer line in. It's been there for a long, long time. I don't know, again, if you look at the old plats and how things were laid out, without a doubt, I mean, 8th Street was in its natural form. Part of it was vacated, and typically you would see some of that adjustment during those. Again, back in that, I mean, we have very little or no records of city council meetings, of any kind of, whether it would have been a public safety committee or what. There's just not a lot in writing that I was able to find. Not to say that it doesn't exist somewhere, just through our research. I don't disagree with Mr. Willert and his client that there is no recorded easement. I think we all agree to that. But the fact that the sewer line has been there, I think stands the test of time, so.
All right, no more questions for Rick. I guess we'll close the staff portion of this hearing, and at this time we will open the public hearing for the Tim and Jill Edson variance request, case number VAR 25-3. I would ask that public comment is kept to related to the variance criteria, and that we be reasonable with our time utilization. If someone from the public would like to approach the dais, please do so. State your name.
Good evening. My name is Terry Kessler. This is my wife, Barbara. We have lived at our home for over 39 years at 1745 Main Street. This, in my understanding, is not about an easement. This is about a setback requirement. I guess I would ask, is that correct? Is that what this is about?
Well, they're asking for an easement to a setback requirement.
No, I'm talking about the easement, sewer easement. This is not about that. It's about a side setback, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The lot is zoned highway service, but it runs continuously to the east with property zoned medium density residential. Some of this will be redundant because Mr. Bush has already said some of this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Pursuant to section 18.05.12D, the City of Sturgis Municipal Code, when a parcel of zoned highway service abuts a residential zoning, the side setback shall not be less than 25 feet. This is the third variance request in less than 4 years at 1800 Main Street, and this one is not materially different than the one in 23. The request is for a 12-foot variance for a 50-foot by 70-foot structure to house an industrial-type building for welding. Certified letters were mailed to the area property owners because this would affect the entire neighborhood. How many residents in Sturgis would think this was good on their block? The side setback provision is in place to buffer or safeguard neighborhoods. This is a perfect example of why the 25-foot setback is in place. The footprint of the lot on 1800 Main Street has not changed since it was purchased. This lot simply cannot accommodate the desired footprint for the business without allowing a variance for half of the required setback. A requirement for granting such a variance includes enhancement of the neighborhood. A welding shop by its very nature, with increased air, noise pollution, additional traffic, and visible commercial materials inconsistent with the environment desired by residents living in close proximity and would not enhance the residential zone. A welding business adjacent to homes would inevitably affect the value of those homes and future resale of those houses also. Staff recommends denial of this variance. The Planning and Zoning Commission met, and they recommended denial of this as well. I would ask the Sturgis Board of Adjustments vote to deny this variance request.
Thank you, Terry. Barbara, do you have anything to add?
No.
Can I even speak if I'm not in that ward?
Yes, you can speak at the public hearing. Can you come up to the mic, or can we get you one?
No, I can make it, because I'm coming up again. So I just kind of want to make a point. My name's Elizabeth Bartlett, and I'm Ward 3, and I love my alderman very much. But to make the point is we want businesses here, do we not? This has got, I haven't been well versed on this. I came here for a specific topic that I'll be talking about in the future, later in the meeting. But, this man wants to have his business, and everybody says that there's not enough business in Sturgis, there's not enough sales tax, there's not enough traffic in Sturgis. Like, I hear more than probably you guys do, or you guys may hear things, but it's not brought up because it's not appropriate to bring up in these meetings. So, I don't know this man. I've never met him. I'm seeing him trying to make a business worthwhile, and I'm just seeing shut down, shut down, shut down. And, you know, I understand what Rick is saying, and I understand, like, you know, the easements and everything, but I think we need to relook at this as a whole, as a city, and maybe this, you know, I don't know, you know, how the council does everything, how the city does everything, but I'm just saying, like, maybe we all need to take a bigger look on just not just Main Street, at a city as a whole, because let's face it, we need some income. We need some sales tax. We get sales tax like, is it Jordan? We see sales tax go low, and then we see sales tax rise. Well, why can't we like figure out how we can actually have a sales tax that is at least average, and then we get a spike, you know, like we always do. But this is just a prime example of something that, you know, just as a business that, you know, like, let's use our brains here. You know, I'm just using this as an example because I'm here tonight. And I'm sorry I'm wearing a hat. It's very disrespectful. I'll take it off when I talk next time. But I just think that a lot of people are complaining and griping, and there's business to be here. There's business to be made here. You know, we had Sampson Exhaust here. They failed because they had to, you know, I worked for Sampson. I don't know if you knew that. I worked for Kenny privately, and, you know, we could not survive because we had to get our chromers out of state. And so we would get partial exhausts. So we'd get heat shields coming, but not the whole unit. But here's this man trying to, you know, do his job as welding, and we need a welder. We need welders here. And I'm just a little flabbergasted here on how maybe I'm not understanding because I haven't followed too much because I had a knee surgery and then my shin shattered and blah, blah, blah. But I think as a community, we need to look at this a little bit more. We need to look at a lot more. That's all I've got to say about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, council and members of the Board of Adjustments. I'm Joseph Bryant. I'm representing my grandma Cora Rottenbutcher, who has resided at 1724 Main Street for 65 years. To answer the question, yes, there was houses in that neighborhood in the 50s and the 60s. Over the course of the last 4 years, the neighborhood has been involved in 5, with tonight being the 6th meeting. The applicants have failed to provide substantial changes to their plans for their piece of Sturgis property. At the latest planning and zoning meeting, discussion once again was brought up about the size of the building, the utility easement, and building the business in the industrial park. The reason cited for the variance request today is because they deem the sewer main easement is a hardship. They claimed at planning and wouldn't know there was a sewer main running across the property. I would argue that anyone buying a piece of land should realize that if you have 2 manholes that are next to your property, you should probably call the city and see if there's a sewer line running underneath it. The Edson's attorney also argued that the side setback is a non-issue because it's just a vacant lot. We heard that numerous times today. It's maybe just a vacant lot that has two structures on it, but it's a vacant lot that's not owned by his clients. And it's zoned residential. Did the applicants think that the property they were buying was bigger when they bought it? Perhaps, because the original building blueprints are oriented facing east, which would be towards the residential structures. But by granting this side setback variance, you would be encroaching on any plans that the landowner has for their property and would drastically lower any value that lot currently has or in the future would be capable of having. It may not directly impact any current residents of Sturgis, but it does impact the landowner of that neighboring lot and any future owner of that lot. The gas station closed in the 1950s or 60s, and the tanks were removed in 1994. The lot has been a thorn in the residential neighborhood side ever since. The city dealt with digging a hole in the alley and trying to barricade the neighborhoods. There's an alley that runs behind it, and the residents that are up under the viaduct in the case of a fire couldn't get out. And the Hubbard Mill did have a fire there that alley needed to be utilized for. I've reviewed the areas of the city where highway service zones are abutted next to a residential zone. Many are separated by alleys, and several are separated by parking lots. None that I could find were granted a variance to be this close to their residential neighborhood, where whether it be vacant lot or zoned residential or a physical structure. The argument could be made that that businesses in this city are looking to move west from downtown, from Main Street downtown, but not be part of the downtown scene. So they are moving west. The neighborhood in discussion has been and will remain is a buffer zone as long as the cemetery remains where it is. I don't believe we have any plans on changing that. With the size of the building, the neighborhood is aware that we aren't talking about a small mom and pop welding shop. We are talking about industrial commercial welding. A privacy fence was discussed, and I don't think that's going to mitigate the noise with the overhead doors. If they're open and they're facing that east residential zone, all you're going to hear is echoes from whatever the welding shop's doing. And according to the last blueprints, there would be two overhead doors facing that east residential neighborhood. I don't know how they plan on getting vehicles out with the 13-foot variance there from their building, but that's for them to decide. The increase in traffic will change a neighborhood that the South Dakota Department of Transportation has deemed to be low enough, even during the rally, that they have stopped running the stoplight that's over on 8th and Lozelle. This isn't about business. It isn't about the lack of a recorded easement across the property. It's about the side setback variance. 25 feet is the standard for the city. I ask that you respect that and deny the variance request of Tim and Jill Edson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I allowed to speak again? Probably not, huh?
Pardon me?
We need to get through the public hearing.
Right.
All right.
It's not a town hall, it's a public hearing.
Send you an email.
Is there someone else that wishes to approach the dais for this public hearing? Bonnie?
Bonnie Alberts. Excuse me. I don't live in that neighborhood. My properties in town are about equidistant from that center point. And Jim, yes, there were houses there. I remember houses there. I aired my bicycle tires there in the 50s when my dad was in Korea for the Korean conflict. I walked to school past there every day. Nobody drove us to school or picked us up. We walked and cut up the hill by the cemetery. And I have a hamstring cramp, I'm sorry. This chair is never the right height for me. I don't have a vested interest as a property owner in that area. I do have a vested interest in this entire town. And you know that. I'm always expressing opinions that are beyond the scope of my wards. But I think about that Main Street, and I remember when there were houses all the way down the street. And yes, we have to have commercial growth. And I would welcome a welding shop. I'm always having things I need fixed. But we have a simple case of this is the right thing in the wrong place. And we've watched those houses in that neighborhood get squeezed out all the way down the street. And I agree with what Joseph has said, that 13 feet is not enough and a wood fence isn't going to cut it. And I'm sorry, but I think these folks have made a mistake in their choice of properties and investment, and I don't know how to ameliorate that for them. I guess I would hope that we have resources in town that would work with them and help them try to locate elsewhere. But we've got to quit breaking down our neighborhoods. I'm seeing things go in. When I was away for a period of time, I came back to find an apartment building squeezed in to my neighborhood that was single-family houses, right on the back porch of my neighbor, Bernie Asham. I'm not sure how that happened. I wasn't here and I wasn't following city council at that time. But I do think we have to protect our reputation as a town of good neighbors, good neighborhoods, cooperation, and helpfulness. And I don't think sticking this business of this size in that location is going to help us do that. I remember when Owens wasn't there. I remember when the co-op wasn't there. I remember when Mrs. Wimmer, the goat woman, lived in a little shack in the grass with her goats and walked back and forth with her wagon. We've come a long way from then, and I'm grateful for that. But I think this is a wrong choice. And I'm sorry for the investment, and I'm hopeful that there's a way to help these folks modify their plan. But I do have a question about highway service and what's allowed to take place there. So the welding shop is an approved option there. What activities are not approved there? Can anybody tell me that? Somebody talked about some service functions that were not allowed in that zoning.
We're going to have a response period. We'll make sure that that's brought up when the staff responds about the items that are not approved in highway service.
Okay, because
Okay.
I have concerns about what almost sounds like a threat. Okay, if I only get to have this smaller shop, then I'm going to have to be doing my work outside. What work is going on outside and how appropriate is that? That's scary. That bothers me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to approach on this public hearing for variance number 3 in 2025? Seeing no one else, I am going to now open a response period. So if the applicants would like to respond to any of the public comments of the hearing, now's the time to do so.
Council, it's clear that people are really upset about the actual operation that's gonna happen there in terms of the welding. You know, the idea that if there's a smaller building and my client has to perform operations outside, you can classify it as a threat if you want to. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Again, the neighbor has not voiced any opposition to this, of that adjacent lot. You know, this used to be a gas station. After the planning commission meeting, one of the opponents came up to us, my clients and I, and said, why don't you build an apartment building? I said, wouldn't that be even more traffic than a welding shop that's operating indoors? You know, I think there may be some misconceptions out there with welding shops in general. I don't know if any of you have been in a welding shop or operated in one, but when they're indoors, they can be very efficient and not really bother the neighbors. And that's what my client's trying to do here. Ms. Bartlett said, we want business here. You know, is Sturgis open for business or not? I have other connections at other municipalities that would love to have my client move there and open a shop, but he wants to be here in Sturgis. You guys should work with him to make that happen. And then, you know, there's some hyperbole and conjecture from some of the other opponents. The only thing that I would request, and I think, Mayor, you addressed this, was the conditional use permit that's mentioned in the staff report on other operations out there. And you know, I'll end with this. This property's been zoned the way it has been since rocks were soft, it sounds like. You know, I've told my clients you should just open another gas station there, a little C-store or something, but he wants to do what he knows, and that's welding. So with that, we would respectfully request you grant the variance. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. Rick, do you have any response to the public comments? Primarily, maybe include what is not allowed in highway service.
Sure. There's not a detailed listing. The way our ordinances are drafted, there are permitted uses, which there's 15 of them. Do you want me to read all 15 of them? I think the question on the conditional use permit is there is a section under highway service that uses permitted on review would be a conditional use permit, and that requires any open storage uses which shall comply with the following provisions. That would be open storage of material or equipment, which that, again, not knowing what Mr. Edson's plan is, that could potentially need a conditional use permit. The fence would need a conditional use permit, provided that the screening's 7 feet tall. All of the lot used for parking of vehicles for storage and display of merchandise, and all driveways used for vehicle ingress, egress, that would need a conditional use permit. Any curb cuts that'll exceed 25 feet. Outdoor lighting, based on, again, on some of these things, they would need a conditional use permit, but we don't know definitive to say yes, they would, till we would see the actual site plan, the building plans. I mean, again, what we're here for tonight is the variance request. I looked at this, you know, you've got a 17-foot setback, even if the sewer line wasn't there. Side yard setback is 10 feet, so you're still 5 feet short. This size of a building, even without the sewer, needs the variance for the setback. Any other questions?
Are there any other welding shops in Sturgis?
I'm not aware. There possibly could be. There used to be one up the street from there. I think we all remember Mr. Lucas had a welding shop up there where Indian Motorcycles is now. When I was a kid, that's where the welding shop is. I'm not sure. I'm sure there are welders around. I don't know. I don't have firsthand knowledge, but I'm sure there are.
Mayor, I'm not on planning and zoning, so I wasn't at the meeting, but I'm just, I'm curious, is the location for the welding shop, and Tim, you don't have to expound on this, but is it necessary to be on a corner like that, or would another location that would not, I'm just curious, is that an issue, the location? Just,
Are you asking me, Jim?
well, I was just looking at Tim, thinking maybe,
I thought you were talking to Rick there. No, you don't have to be on a corner.
well, my point is, I wish somebody from SEDC was here, because wouldn't there be a chance,
We went through that.
wouldn't there be a chance with Sturgis Economic Development to do something in the,
Mayor,
I already went
excuse
through
me,
that with
this,
them.
this is a Board of Adjustment hearing to consider the variance. We do not, the board doesn't have the authority to workshop this with Mr. Edson. My request would be that we please stick to the variance criteria. It's possible that there may be possibilities to work out something in the future. The focus is on the Board of Adjustment variance request.
If I could, Mayor, just respectfully, I think it really goes to the other avenues that my clients already tried to seek to remedy this. So I'd just request you let him answer that question.
However you want to proceed, Mayor.
Well, I'll take on the question. We had an agreement that the former mayor had worked on. Of course, some people thought that the deal was solidified. The mayor doesn't have the authority. Council never ratified that. So there was no previous agreement in place, but there was some work done to try and do some pieces. It resulted, though, in costs to the city of Sturgis. And, while we might not know that in this discussion tonight, was a factor. I agree with our attorney Eric's input that we're here tonight to consider this variance, and that's what we should probably work on tonight. And so unless, Tim, if you don't have anything more substantial to add to the historical record.
I just want to say, the deal we had, the city was going to buy my lot, and I was going to buy a lot in a industrial park. And I had everything set up to go, but I got denied at the last. They were supposed to. I was supposed to buy. They were supposed to buy my lot. In return, I was going to buy the industrial park lot, and they were going to give me a loan, a low percent loan, which I knew if I had to go through the complete process of a commercial loan, I would not qualify for it. So that was one of the, that's what the SEDC or the city or at the last moment said, no, we're not going to give you this loan. But on the other hand, I got a stupid high credit score and I have no bills whatsoever. But my paperwork or my income tax owed Tim Edson money. So whenever I needed money, I would go get what the business owed me and pay bills and stuff. But it just made me look stupid, which I didn't appreciate it, because had I known that I was going to get treated like a normal commercial loan would have been, I would have said, hey, let's not do this. You're wasting my time. You're wasting your time. But that's the way it went down. So,
thank you for that.
Yeah.
That answers what I was
Thank
asking.
you, Tim. Rick, do you have anything more to add?
I don't, unless you guys have any questions for me.
All right, seeing no more questions, we're going to close the public hearing and enter the deliberation phase. Staff has prepared a draft findings and facts of conclusions of law based on the staff report and Planning Commission's recommendation. The board's discussions and decision should be tied to the criteria. So I believe we have up to 30 days. If the Board of Adjustment wishes to delay the final decision, they can do so.
Few options here for the Board of Adjustment, Mayor. It would be acceptable for the board to move to deny the variance and adopt the draft proposed findings and conclusions. If the board is not prepared to do that and it would like to make changes to the proposed findings or conclusions, I would suggest that those be offered and changes can be made by motion and seconded and by vote. And if the board needs more time to deliberate, we would need some direction on how the findings and conclusions should be modified, and we'll present those at a future meeting. Those would be the primary options available. Happy to engage with anyone on the proposed findings or conclusions.
And of course, all votes are at 2/3.
It takes 2/3 vote to grant a variance.
Well, Mayor, I don't think there's any question that we're looking for businesses that can provide sales tax. We're looking for business growth. I think one of the things I learned when I first got on the council was we spent lots of time and money getting the people on TIFs, but for houses, but not for business. And that was, as Toby told us, we need to spend more time getting business in. And I would think that I'm not ready to say this, we don't want this business. I think we need to take advantage of not advantage, we need to take the counsel of the people that live there. They have a right to say what their feelings. And again, if the problem is if we put in a place like this and he's working indoors and it's creating a problem, then you've got all the expense of building it, and they find out that there's noise and pollution and whatever, the worst things, and then it's too late to really do anything about. It's too bad that that other didn't go through, but that's not something we can discuss tonight. But I think that with time, would that work? Has that anybody put?
There's been no more effort put into that, but again, the decision tonight is on the variance.
But we could put it off for more information. Is that correct?
With direction on the findings and conclusions document.
I guess I'd say to that, though, we have 6 planning and zoning meetings worth of information on this.
A motion to deny the variance request.
Second.
We've got a first to deny the variance request by Alex, a second by Terry.
Mr. Chair, just a point of procedure, would that motion include to adopt the proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law as presented in the packet?
Yes.
To acknowledge that? Good point, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Because it's a 2/3 piece, I guess we'll just go ahead and roll call. I'll make sure I get Ruth's name right on the thing here, so. Nick?
Yes to deny.
Jim?
No.
Terry?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
That motion has carried 7-1 to deny the variance and accept the facts and findings. So at this point, we will adjourn as the Board of Adjustment and reconvene as the Sturgis City Council. Item 12.1 is consideration to approve Resolution 2025-37, approving the final plat on lots 7A, 7B, and 7C in Block 1 of Block 12 of a very long legal description in Meade County here.
Evening, Mayor. Item before the council tonight's consideration is Resolution 2025-37, approving the final plat of Lot 7A, 7B, 7C, Block 1, Lot 12, all located within the city of Sturgis. This replat is being requested by Larry and Beth Harris to accommodate a 3-unit townhome in medium-density residential zoning. Medium-density residential zoning does allow for single-family homes, townhomes, and manufactured homes on permanent foundations. Townhomes are specifically permitted in this district, provided each dwelling unit sits on a separately platted lot with common walls serving as the property lines and individual water and sewer connections. The purpose of this plat is to take 2 existing lots, which were 7 and 8, and divide them into the 3 newly created lots, 7A, 7B, 7C. This configuration allows the applicants to construct the 3 attached townhome unit, each on its own individual lot. The design supports home ownership flexibility, meets the financing requirements, and aligns with the medium-density residential townhome standards. Each new lot does meet or exceed the minimum zoning requirements, including the lot area, the lot width, the setbacks, maximum lot coverage, and parking. Each lot will be served by individual water sewer connections, and no variances are being requested as a part of this plat. Staff has reviewed the plat for conformance with both Title 18 zoning and Title 19 subdivision, and on October 7th, the Planning Commission unanimously approved the final plat during its regularly scheduled meeting. Based on the review of the Planning Commission action, staff recommends approval of Resolution 2025-37, approving the final plat of Lot 7A, 7B, 7C, and Block 1 of Lot 12.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions from council on this plating? Is there a motion to, on the subject?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We've got a first by Mark and a second by Alex to approve Resolution 2025-37. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That's carried. 12.2 is consideration to approve Resolution 2025-36.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before council this evening is Resolution 25-36, a request to approve the final plat of Lot 2A, Block 29 of Ash Extension. The applicants are Donald and Barbara Hanna, and this property is located within Block 29 of Ash Extension to the city of Sturgis. The purpose of this plat is that it consolidates 3 existing lots, Lot 2, Lot 3A, and 3B, into one single lot identified as Lot 2A. The intent is to simplify the parcel configuration and create one single buildable lot that conforms to city zoning and subdivision standards. No changes are being proposed to the zoning or land use with this replat. This property is zoned as medium-density residential. The new lot does meet or exceed all the required area and setbacks under Title 18, including the minimum lot area, the lot width, the setbacks, lot coverage, maximum height, and parking. The proposed consolidation is compliant with both Title 18 and Title 19, and no variances are requested with this application. Planning Commission unanimously approved the final plat at its meeting October 7th, 2025. Staff recommends final approval of the final plat. As presented, the plat does meet all zoning and subdivision requirements. Approval of Resolution 2025-36 is what we're asking for the mayor to be able to sign that.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions about this combination of 3 existing lots into one?
Move to approve.
First by Nick to approve. Second by Jim to approve Resolution 2025-36. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. 2025-36 has been approved. Item 12.3 is consideration to authorize the advertisement of a request for proposals for municipal solid waste collection.
Last one, I promise. The item before the council tonight is a request to authorize advertisement of a request for proposals for municipal solid waste collection and disposal services within the city of Sturgis. First, I'd like to start off by emphasizing that this RFP is not a commitment to privatize services. It's only an informational gathering tool, a way for the city and staff to evaluate options, cost, service models, so that we can make an informed decision about how best to serve residents long-term. The purpose of this RFP is to collect competitive proposals from qualified waste management companies to determine whether contracting services could reduce operational costs, improve service efficiency and reliability, and provide better value and long-term sustainability for our residents. The results will give the council a real cost comparison between continuing in-house operation versus contracting, allowing an objective evaluation before any policy changes occur. Currently, the operational challenge of the city sanitation division, we're under severe strain. Currently, we only have 2 active full-time drivers that are operating all residential and commercial routes. These drivers are working 7 days a week to keep up with this service demand. Despite repeated recruitment efforts, no qualified commercial driver license applicants have applied. This division is also responsible for the Exit 32 recycling, cardboard and yard waste collection, and event cleanup, such as the motorcycle rally and the Mustang rally. To keep up, we routinely have to pull staff from our street division. They spend about 3 hours each day helping to manage the cardboard accounts. We currently have 44 cardboard-only accounts that we do not collect any additional revenue for. We go out and pick up cardboard at businesses. Compounding this is an aging equipment fleet. Many of the garbage trucks are past their service life, requiring frequent repairs, downtime, and high maintenance costs. Just this last month, we lost one complete rear load garbage truck that cannot be repaired. In short, we cannot continue to operate under these conditions. It's simply unsustainable from both a staffing and a financial standpoint. This RFP will allow us to proactively assess alternatives before a service disruption occurs. It's an opportunity to gather accurate financial and operational data that will guide your future decisions. Regardless of the outcome, the intent is to protect service reliability for the residents, city financial stability, and employee and community interests. Well, there are both going to be potential advantages. Staff also recognizes the important considerations are to maintain local control, service quality. We must carefully evaluate any employment impacts and explore transition opportunities for staff if a contracting moves forward. Fiscally, our fiscal budget impact is undetermined until the proposals are received, but we do expect to identify potential cost savings through reductions in equipment replacement, maintenance, fuel, and personnel expenses. This process will inform future rate structure recommendations and long-term capital planning. Upon council authorization, the RFP will be advertised twice in the Black Hills Pioneer and open for proposals until November 21st, 2025, where we will have where the bids will be received at 2 p.m. until 2 p.m. at the Sturgis Finance Officer. Staff will return to the council following the proposal review with findings and recommendations on how to proceed. Some of the things that we're looking at being able to do is not only garbage collection, both of the residential and commercial, but also providing services such as curbside recycling. Some of these things, different avenues for our cardboard collection, some of our yard waste, and how we manage some of our special events in how we pick up and charge for those accounts. With that, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Rick. Just for information, What is the price of a new garbage truck? Just a rough number for the
Probably
people.
$750,000.
I just wanted that out there, especially when we're looking at possibly having to purchase 2 of them, so.
Yeah, we had, part of our equipment replacement, those were scheduled purchases and we had to defer them. When the rubble site dozer went down, the money that we had been setting aside for a purchase of one of them, it was determined that that was a higher need, and so the council funds to pay for that payment each year. So we're in a bad spot, and I don't know if everybody truly realizes that all of our household residential garbage, commercial and residential, gets taken to Belle Fourche. We have a restricted use construction debris rubble site, which only certain items are allowed to be able to go up there. Typically, that's construction debris. So all of our household garbage we haul every single day to Belle Fourche and pay tipping fees to do that. We haven't been keeping up with our rates, have not been increasing at a rate that what our tipping fees are. And what I mean by that, the charge that Belle Fourche charges us, our per ton rate, is higher than what we're collecting in our service rates. And so every year we're using our reserves to conduct the day-to-day operations, and we simply can't sustain that. We're spending out of our savings to do daily operations, and at some point in time, we just don't have savings.
Rick, for example, can you identify some of the neighboring communities and how they're doing their sanitation services?
And again, kind of similar when we talk about rate structures, no two communities are the same. There are several communities around who take this approach at some level. Box Elder is probably the most, the one that's closest to being in the same boat that we're in, where they do all of their municipal garbage collection. They do their cleanup weeks, things of that nature. Actually, Box Elder, I believe, is it next week or this week, did theirs. And what they do is they set up, the third-party hauler brings all the trucks out, and then their residents bring all the things to them, and they serve a lunch and kind of make it more of a community event. Deadwood, Spearfish, there are communities around that do some level of it. Some of them, Rapid City, for example, they do all their recycling with a third party. Some communities choose to do one or the other. And I think that's really where we're trying to, on this fact-finding mission of getting what all these services are and what the costs associated with them are, and then bring them back to you with a recommendation. And if we are able to outsource some of the services, maybe we can step up our program in some other areas. For example, the yard waste, we can have more time dedicated to doing that and picking it up, or we can still manage the cleanup weeks. Or I think until we get this RFP back and understand what those costs are, that will help develop and drive what we'll put out there as a recommendation. And I think right now everything is game, and we have to take a full glass look at it. Again, we're at a step. I can't continue to operate 7 days a week with 2 guys. I mean, that's simply not fair. And if somebody gets sick or gets injured or wants to use I'm down to 1 guy, and we can't sustain that. It's not practical. So we need to start looking at what we are able to do. And I'll be honest with you, in some of the preliminary, looking at this preliminarily, it could even potentially be a cost savings to our customers. Again, not having to manage the recycling lot, where if you want to recycle, you could pay $5 a month and have recycling, picked up at your doorstep. I mean, that'd be huge. I have reached out and I've had some initial conversations, and things such as the rally and that service. I mean, you look at what we have to budget for that event alone, and we're talking 500, 600, 700 tons of additional garbage just for that event, and what the cost is for us to man that and run it and to set out the cans and all of those things, certainly could be some pretty significant cost savings to the city.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions from council?
One of the garbage trucks has blown their hydraulic hose at my place of work twice in the last 2 years, so, I mean, it's a safety issue too.
Yeah.
I think we gotta at least give it a shot.
I would motion to approve the advertisement of RFP for the solid waste collection disposal.
Second.
Yeah, first by Tony, a second by Alex to authorize the advertisement for proposals for solid waste collection. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
That is carried. Item 12.4, consideration to approve and adopt the Condrey and Associates job classification and compensation plan for the city of Sturgis.
Good
Hi,
evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm here to get the consideration and approval to adopt the Condrey and Associates job classification and compensation plan for the city of Sturgis, dated October 25th, or 2025, and with an effective date of December 15th, 2025. Administrator Jordan has passed the baton on to me to get it over the finish line and make a determination with your approval to move employees onto the new pay scale with an effective date of December 15th, 2025. As you can see, sorry, I thought it was scrolling. One of the reasons why the council first approved the Condrey and Associates plan was to do a salary comparison with other cities within our locality. We need to remain competitive in the local labor market by attracting and retaining the most qualified workforce. They collected the salary data, and then they produced and recommended the pay plan based on a job analysis, job evaluation, and the wage survey data. The cost to implement the plan over 2 years will be $434,151 for the full-time employees. Recommendation to implement this over 2 years, and so 2026 we'll see all of the employees will go to half of what their permanent salary will be, and then in 2027 we'll implement the second half. Employees will not receive a COLA due to the 27th pay period. One more thing that I'd like to discuss is that in the Condrey survey, one of the requests or one of the recommendations that they made was to give a seniority bump, a seniority step for employees who had been in their position for 1 to 4 years. Our recommendation is that we give a salary increase to employees that have been in their position for 5 to 10 years, and then a 2-grade increase, a 2-step increase for employees 10 years and above. What we'd like to do is respect the seniority of our employees who have been here for over 10 years and give them that 2-step seniority bump. Does anybody have any questions for me as I stumble through trying to get this passed today?
Carrie, maybe just touch a little bit on the actual process. I mean, interviews of staff members and tremendous amount of input and.
It absolutely was. And so what the Condrey Associates did is they sent out documentation to all employees, and then over 50% of the employees were interviewed to make a determination on whether position description should be. I think that there's been some concerns in reference to a copy and paste that could have been done with other cities within our area. However, there was an intense amount of information that was received from our employees based upon what their jobs actually are. We could not do a copy and paste looking at another city based upon the grades that were then discussed and aligned with those position descriptions for our employees.
Thank you. And I think I mean, isn't there one more due out to this? I mean, don't we get the job descriptions out of this? I mean, part of this was generated by the election that we had last year, which changed us to not employing a city manager any longer. And of course, city manager was plastered everywhere, and in not just, it wasn't just a swap a term out with a
Right.
different term. We had to rewrite the majority of our job descriptions.
In fact, that's one of the things that Condrey did for us, is taking our employees' input. They did rewrite all of the job descriptions for us. I'll be sending out those new job descriptions to supervisors tomorrow so that they can go ahead, review those one last time, make sure that everything was captured in those, and then they can go ahead and hand their employees their new job description. Again, based on their input.
Yeah, and then the original PDs or position descriptions they provided us, they sent us a copy of those a while back, and I gave that to all the department heads, and they went through each of their departments with all their positions and made some updates, a lot of updates, quite frankly. We captured all those updates, and then we packaged it, and we sent it back to Condrey to implement into the final position descriptions for those jobs.
Thank you. Any questions on the process? I guess I can add part of the budget process. We delayed hiring an HR person for half of the year in order to finance this initiative. Hopefully it pays out. It looks like some of the data that we're getting back, the job descriptions, the different pieces, is going to help us get over the hump of not having you in the position.
Well, thanks for waiting for me.
Well, another advantage too is, with the wage study or the salary, what's the term you've been using, Carrie?
I'm struggling up here.
Basically, the salary, we're trying to get away from Condrey, right? We have this document that has 27 grades and 18 steps. And each time you go up a step, it's a 2.5% increase in your pay. And we have, for some of our employees, the union employees, there is a step increase with our two CBAs that we have, one for the city employees and one we have for the law enforcement, but it's a much smaller percentage of increase, and it only covered those personnel. All the other rest of the exempt and salaried employees were not covered in that. So this does provide, based on, meeting job standards, you'll be able to get an increase when you go from one step to the next 2.5. One thing that's in this packet is a little different is that, and again, we socialized this with the union, and actually they're the ones that kind of came down and provided us the recommendation, is that for the first 10 years, based on, again, performance, you'd get a step increase each and every year. And after your 10th year, you'd get a step increase every 2 years. And you would max out after a 26-year career. So that was one thing that we implemented above and beyond what we got from the Condrey.
One of the things that we also did is take a look at their current salaries. And so if it fell between two steps, then we granted the higher step. So not a single employee is going to lose money by going on to this. I believe that we started to call it the Sturgis 2026 wage scale versus the Condrey, and continuing to use it as the Condrey. So the Sturgis 2026 wage scale, every employee will receive some sort of an
Just emphasize one thing that Carrie talked about is with, in 2025, if you hit your anniversary in January or April of 2025, based on our collective bargaining agreements we have, is that in 2026, you would get that increase, that bump. You don't get it on your anniversary date, you get it on the next year. So what Carrie did is went in there, and when we started factoring for what their amount's going to be, we gave them that bump this year. They're not getting the pay this year, but instead of having the baseline be X amount and they put you into this particular step, we gave you the pay raise, and then we put you into that step, and then you go up. So it was basically giving them credit for this particular year of getting, achieving those milestones within their years of service. So we tried everything we could to be able to, to make everybody whole and have some improvement there.
We did.
Probably the things you see the most is It's really the people that entry-level positions been here for just a little bit of time. If you look at the step one for all those different grades, we have people who are going to make significant increases going from where they're at right now to what that pay is. So that just kind of tells us that we probably were not at the market value for those positions. And so they're going to see some increases. The people that have been here for a while that are above step one, they're basically going into, this is your grade, and based on here's what you make in 2026, it falls into this particular step. And you go to the top of, you'll be in that, you go to I think onto the top side. So basically the people that have been here for a short time really get a lot of increase. And that's where the seniority increase comes into play. They call it the equity code, but it's basically a seniority bump. And that's where what Carrie was talking about is for those people that have 5 years or 10 years, you'll get one step for 5 and you'll get a second step for 10 years of service. So.
Yeah, correction, where newer employee couldn't surpass an existing employee in the same job.
That's
or
correct.
come into
Yes.
even
Gets a
with
little
them with more
compressed.
years
That's
of seniority. So
Right. As you take a look at the screen behind you or in front of you, you're going to see that we have broken down steps 1 through 10 is annual. Steps 11 through 18 are going to be biannual. If we have an employee that steps right into, let's say, a step 11 based on their current salary, they will go into that biannual earning, but the difference between the steps is about 2.5%. And so they will receive step increases, like I said, 1 through 10 annually, 11 through 18 biannually. So this is only going to benefit our employees as they continue to step out in their current grade.
thank you. Any questions from council? How about from the public? Anybody have a comment or?
Tammy Bond, 1616 Elk Court. So I requested a copy of the wage study, and I actually got 4 copies, 3 drafts and 1 final. And I have a list of questions to ask who? Her? Who? Erin? Okay. So the first question is, why were there 3 drafts, April 25th, 3rd, before the final report on October 6th? And who approved each revision?
Well, if you do look at, there was 3 preliminary reports and we get the final report, and there wasn't a lot of difference between the 4. The differences that did exist were a couple things. One was,
Did you approved them?
I reviewed them and I worked with the mayor and he approved. But I'll just tell you the process here is that the reason they came up with some different ones, and I didn't ask for different ones, I just kept on giving some updates. When we went through and we had all the employees that were interviewed, there were some positions that we just didn't have people in them. We started to identify that we could probably at some point in the future use an executive assistant. We figured someday we could use a city attorney. There was like 4 or 5 different positions over probably a month or so where I would work back with Condra, say, hey, could you add this one in? And then as you're looking at those 15 communities, give us a position description for that particular job and then what the grade would be for that particular job. So those were some of the changes. Let me see, what else do we have? Also on the equity code, their recommendation, they gave us basically 6 options, A, B, and C, and then each B and C had another option. Option A was that we'd be at market value and then plus another 5%. Option B was market value plus 2.5%. And option C was market value. And then each one of those, A, B, and C, had a modified version. That modified version was going, instead of having 3 steps, you would have 2-step increases.
Did you modify it or did they modify it?
Oh, that was all that they provided.
Did they re-talk to each one of the employees in between the modifications? Did they resurvey them?
The only modification was, in terms of the equity code, is are we going to use 2 steps or are we going to use 3 steps? and then what the years of service between for each of those particular seniority codes.
So the employees were not resurveyed then?
Well, because their job hadn't changed. They were surveyed based
They
on
asked
looking,
certain questions up
right.
front, right?
They were looking at,
And then
basically, you're
somebody
looking.
came back and made all
There's a
these
difference here, though,
changes.
between the position description and then we're talking about the seniority bumps. That was the changes that they had made, was our
Do
recommendation.
you have all the backup documentation for all the things that were done and made, the changes and everything?
Explain what kind of backup
Well,
documentations.
I just got these very cookie cutter reports, and they're all the same.
Well, those are the reports they provided us.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, so they gave you, here's our original thing, and then along the line, they made changes to it. Why did they make those changes? And where's the documentation for all the information from the original one and why they made those changes to it? Because I wasn't given any of that when I requested everything.
Right. You want to answer that, Eric?
You requested it, Tammy. It's exempt from disclosure under state law. We're not entitled to give staff emails, anything that would explain what the deliberative process is happening in the executive branch.
Okay,
My
so,
recommendation was not to grant the staff reports for that reason, but I was directed to make them public to you.
okay, so the public cannot have that information.
Aaron Jordan's emails back and forth from Condrey,
Yeah.
it's exempt under state law.
Okay. So were all the department heads notified of all the different changes? I mean, did everybody see this this first thing, and then let everybody look at it? And then, oh, here comes the second one, and here comes the third one, and everybody look at it? Did all the department heads get to look at all that stuff?
Well, again, the changes that we made were we added to some positions. We had some discussions on the seniority bump. I had conversations with the department heads on those, that information. I guess I'm not, again, from my perspective, there wasn't a lot of change from the preliminary report that we got, number one, until the very end. The biggest changes that we added, like 5 or 6 positions. We actually removed quite a few from the ambulance based on the ambulance director, that there were some positions that he didn't think was appropriate for her ambulance. So
Well, and-
all that information was socialized and discussed with all the department heads. They looked at the position descriptions. They made the updates that we provided back to Condrey. So, yeah, I would say there was a lot of information flowing between myself and the department heads on trying to do this and do it right and make sure that we had good position descriptions, set our employees up for success.
So one of the other questions was on the final one that everybody was given. There's definitely some, in the Excel spreadsheet, there's some things that don't add up in it. And that's part of what you're asking them to sign off on.
Well, I'm not, on the spreadsheet, the spreadsheet never changed on those grades.
The spreadsheet, you're saying the spreadsheet never changed on the drafts?
The only one I saw they had one time was they had 28 grades, and then I think it went back to 27. There was one that was 18, and I think one time they had it 19.
So
But,
this is the final one right here?
oh, that one never, I don't know, that was,
This is the final one that was with the
that is, that's a spreadsheet that doesn't provide steps,
appendix C.
right?
And it says.
That was all provided by Condrey, the city of Sturgis, myself, department heads had no,
But what I'm trying to get across is that you've got, right here, there's two, on the spreadsheet, it doesn't add up. That there's not numbers.
Condrey didn't complete the spreadsheet. And
Okay, so it's a
the only-
non-complete thing that you're asking these guys to sign off on.
The actual,
It's part of the finding.
I understand that, but the grade, or the wage scales, that is correct. That's on,
So this is not correct, this last piece?
that one is not completed. When Aaron and I talked about it earlier, it was something from Condrey that was just numbered.
well, I think they were looking at, I had to go back and look at that one, but that was looking at different ranges, the median range for that positions.
Right.
But what they end up doing is that based on the surveys that the employees filled out and then the phone calls they had with them, they had 10 factors that they evaluated that would determine what grade that position would be in.
And you guys got all that backup data for council to look at
What,
when
what
they
kind
have
of
to-
backup data are you talking about?
Well, it says that they go back and forth, they're supposed to go back and forth to these other cities.
I did not get, they didn't provide any information when it talks about how they graded each position for those
You
10
think
factors.
that's important?
No,
You're just gonna go off of what they say?
this
And
is,
you-
no, actually, we didn't go off exactly what they said. We made some changes on those. Most of them were we increased them from one grade to a higher grade. So, and that was based on probably more judgment, myself working with the department heads on making some adjustments. We just felt that that position should probably be graded a little bit higher than what they had.
In this thing, what I'm trying to understand is that I looked at the spearfish one that they did and yours, and the wording is identical except for the word spearfish and Sturgis. And
Well, the other thing that was different too is that they have more grades. Their grades are rated higher than our grades.
But you're
That's a difference.
asking them for a study for our town that has a rally and everything else. You can't compare apples to apples. That's what I'm trying to just understand on this whole thing is, the point scores and the evaluation system and everything else. How can you determine what you're gonna pay people off of these studies that are identical to spearfish? And I didn't even look at the Meade County one. I mean, do you see what I'm trying to get to? This is people's livelihood, their salaries. And I look at this thing and I'm like, it's word for word exactly what spearfishes says, except for numbers. So how can that possibly be a study about Sturgis? I mean,
But it's
incorporate
a
everything.
wage study comparing other cities to ours. And so I think that they have the same verbiage because they set up the report in
Paid
the same way.
$40,000 for the same verbiage. I mean, me as a citizen, I just want to know the details, how they came up to these numbers. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to.
Our
That
study
makes
group
sense.
was not spearfish alone.
I mean,
It
did
was-
somebody go through their numbers and make sure those numbers were right? Make sure the formulas were all right? Did anybody do that? Or you just went off the spreadsheet that they gave you?
That is not information that was provided. That's not information they provide to any community. That's their proprietary information. They have 10 factors. They talk to the employees. They look at their stuff. I feel pretty confident about it because I've looked at other communities. I looked at Spearfish. I haven't seen the one for Meade County, and it seemed fair to me. And I understand just working through the process is that they're a third party, people that
That don't even live here.
no, but they have municipality experience, they have HR experience, they have municipality experience, and they just, I don't know. I guess
I look at it as another company that is just taking government information and going from one city to the next city, charging them $39,000, putting the numbers where it is, and here's your study. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I mean, I don't know how the rest of the public looks at it, but I mean, that's how I looked at it. And I just felt like by not having any full backup of data, surveys, responses, whatever, it's not very transparent. It's how you got to that number to pay this guy in that position. Because I would think you'd go more like, I drive a truck. Well, let's see what the rest of the people in the area are paying to drive a truck. Are we gonna drive?
there was 15 communities that they looked at, looking at like jobs and looking at,
But don't you want to see that data? You're just going to believe them? You're going to blindly just believe them. Because you know what? When you look at spearfishes and you look at this one, they're saying the exact same percentage. How can that be? I mean, you don't question any of it? I mean, that's what I'm trying
there's
to
a lot
get
of
to.
things that we questioned through the process. That's why it took us a little bit some time to put it together. But I feel like it's this is one thing that the city of Sturgis has been doing for a couple years, trying to do a wage study. And I kind of give a hand to the council here back when they appointed me, the same day appointed me when they approved this contract. And finally, I think we were putting some action behind a promise for a long time to be able to do some surveys. And we've been trying to do it in-house for probably the last 3 or 4 years, and we just weren't able to get anywhere. So I thought it was good money spent to be able to take care of our employees, to put them into a great position that everybody's going to get a benefit from. And most people are greatly going to benefit from it, particularly the ones that have been here for a short period of time. And then
For
the
a
ones that
long
have been here
period
for a
or short?
while are getting a seniority bump. So again, we can disagree on many things here, but I from it.
Okay, well, I guess that's your opinion. It's not mine. And I don't think it's that opinion of a lot of citizens when you take, it's exact same wording. Exact same. Has anybody even read it?
I've read some of the spearfish things. I mean, isn't spearfish in our market though?
I mean, the whole report, has anybody read it?
Well, I wouldn't. I
This
guess I
is the
didn't
first
do a
time
co-
everybody's seen it, right? And they're being asked to vote on it.
No,
Go ahead.
Aaron presented it at least twice since I've been coming to meetings in reference to the
Why
Congress study.
why wasn't the original one presented in full to the council?
Well, that was based on what they asked us to do. If you look at those first 3 preliminary reports, at the very top of it, it says this is not for release. I forgot all the terminology. When they first called me, when they sent me the report, they said, hey, this is just for you and the mayor, because ultimately you have a choice here to make. And this is more of a choice for you and the mayor to make, primarily the mayor.
You two, the whole council should be making
Well, that's
the
what they're doing
decisions,
right now.
not just
That's
you
what-
two.
That's what they're doing right now, is that we as the executive branch have been working this, putting this report together. I've been socializing this with the council
All of the council.
at the Legal and Finance. I did a report back on 18th of August, laid out the process that was used. I showed them the grades that we had at the time. I showed them the 15 communities. The only thing I didn't have is the final report at the time, and they asked me not to make the preliminary reports public.
Who
Condrey,
asked why?
because I don't know.
That's weird.
Well,
Don't.
I think
don't-
part of it is that
Don't give them to the public? Don't
Part
let
of-
the public know?
part of this is the deliberation piece of it is that we had to make a tough choice. We could have went for the most expensive choice. We just chose the one that we could afford, that benefited our community, that benefited our employees, that put them into great steps where they're going to be able to, each and every year or after 10 years, they get a step increase. That's not something that we've had. You can talk to Rick Bush, who's been here for a long time. The only increase that Rick has ever received is a COLA. And we don't get COLAs every year, but now you get a step increase.
It's not what you're gonna, what they're gonna get. It's like the information that is given to the council to make their decisions off of.
I guess you'd have to ask the council, or they feel that they've had the information.
I guess they're fine. They must be fine with it. I mean, I can't believe that they would want to sign off on this thing without seeing all of the backup data. I mean, as a business owner, I want to see all the data. I want to see what they're paying these other things, because now you're going off of what somebody else is saying without seeing the data for yourself, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I guess, do you guys have any questions? I mean, no? You're gonna vote to approve it?
Well, I
As
don't
it
think we've
sits?
had a chance to discuss it yet.
Oh. All right, well, I would suggest that you all get a copy of the Spearfish one and copies of all the drafts and compare them line for line and ask yourself if you feel you got your $40,000 worth. Because it is word for word exactly the same as Spearfish's. And we are not the same as Spearfish. Doesn't talk about the rally, doesn't talk about anything like that. And you're being asked to go along with whatever the numbers they're giving you is what I'm trying to bring out, so.
Well, Tammy, I don't think any of the communities that we compared to weighed in their heavy pieces. I mean, I think Vermilion was on the list. I mean, how big's their college? You know, Spearfish, same deal. I mean, they've got a seasonal influx of college, so I don't,
That's what
I don't think that the rally factors in any differently, though, does it? I mean, you still do the same job, don't you?
You don't? I mean, he was just talking about the garbage. And you don't
We
think
we
the-
do more of it, but do we do a different job?
You don't think the rally has any impact on the wages? What about the police officers?
Well, it certainly has a budgetary impact. I mean, we pay $500,000 or $400,000 in overtime over the rally. I mean, so that's where the piece
how-
comes in.
Okay, what piece?
Well, some of the decisions through the
But you
study.
haven't- they
I
don't
mean,
give
are we
you
going 10% over market or 5%? Are we
don't
trying to
give you
hit
any
the mark?
backup numbers.
Pardon me?
They don't give you any number, any backup data to make your decision off of, so how can you? You're just going off of this. And nobody's even verified that those formulas are right. That's what, right? No, did anybody verify that all of those are right? That are in,
Talking about the grade scale?
yeah, the grade scale. Did you go through and make sure that they're right? Obviously,
Yeah.
somebody didn't because you put this thing as,
But that's not the grade scale that you're pointing
But
at. The information, Aaron did verify all of that because he actually has it broken down into hourly also. This is the salary. But yes, we did verify that all of those were the
all of those you
2.5%.
verified, all of them are correct,
We put it into a formula, yes.
into a spreadsheet, into like an Excel spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're okay with this one?
I'm not okay with that. That is nothing that we
Then
produced.
who checked this? Who checked
This was the final that came from Condrey, and Aaron and I talked about it today,
about what? This?
about the fact that it wasn't completed.
This number like that has been in every single one of them.
Yeah, I think the part that wasn't completed was, I think they completed,
median
the city
and the mean.
administrator was the actual, but they had the
Right.
other information.
But that mistake has been in every draft and the final.
I think they were just trying to give you a range of, here's where these positions range at for wages. I
Okay.
mean, we spent $40,000 for an expert to put this together.
And that's expert.
Spearfish has been, I think this is like the third time Spearfish has actually used Condrey. They do it about every 5 years or so and have them come back out and do an update or a review. Part of this, I think what we learned from this too, from a city, is that when you do fill out your questionnaires and when they talk to you, you got to make sure you really articulate what your jobs are. That's why they came back with those position descriptions. We sent them out to the department heads to make sure that, yeah, these descriptions, responsibilities are accurate for those positions. So again, there was a lot of deliberation within the city of Sturgis with the department heads to be able to get this right. And yeah, I do feel very comfortable with it.
Okay, that's all I have then.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Anyone else from the gallery have a question or comment on the Condrey study? Council, there is a request for action on this. Do you have any additional comments or concerns that you need to get answered? And is somebody willing to motion?
I'd like to make a comment. First of all, Tammy, I appreciate and value your passion and your concern about everything and the transparency and all the information. I do. I applaud you for that and for always being someone to come up and ask questions and to be a voice for a lot of people in the community. When it comes to asking questions about not having all the data and everything behind, this is a business entity that we're working with. And there is a level of when we went forward with moving forward with Condrey of understanding their experience, understanding how long they've been doing this and how many people how many other communities and businesses that they've worked with. And so when you're working with a private entity, the way that I view it is there is going to be some level of understanding that they have a right to keep some proprietary information to themselves. You'll see that with any business. And so when we put this together and we requested this study, for me, I relied on that experience with them, relied on the work done by our staff, Aaron, I know at least has talked to me several times about things that have been going on with the process of the study. As far as, I'm not in the Legal and Finance Committee anymore, but we do get weekly, or not weekly, we get an email after every Legal and Finance Committee that summarizes everything. And so there is a level with all these committees and the staff that we have on hand that we have to not blindly accept everything, but have some sort of understanding that we will rely on them to do their job, and we put them in the places that they're in because we believe that they are capable. So with that being said, thank you, Tammy, again. I would motion to approve this, the study.
Motion approval, acceptance of
Accept,
the
yes.
study.
I'll happily second.
We got a first by Ruth, second by Nick to accept the study. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor of approval indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. That motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Item 12.5 is City Attorney's Report on the scope and procedure of a potential revision to Chapter 11.8 of the Sturgis Municipal Code, temporary camping.
Thank you, Mayor. The council requested a report with a little bit of explanation on what the current status of the city's temporary camping ordinance is, what it allows, what it doesn't allow, and what a potential pathway for an amendment might look like, and what some of the considerations and procedure would be on that. I've completed that report. It's in your packet. I won't go through it with you, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All counselors have a chance to read Eric's report. Comes with some ideas and some options.
And I am happy to discuss any aspects the council would like to discuss.
You want to quickly summarize the different?
Sure.
I know it's late, but
No, it's okay. I set forth two options. Of course, there's probably others, but those are the ones that I at least came up with. Basically, the first option would be essentially do nothing or make minor changes, enforce the current ordinance as since 2021. Maybe putting some minor changes. Option 2 would be doing more of a substantial rewrite. Some of the guidelines we'd be looking at. Of course, we are going to be working with our partners at Department of Health. These are the kinds of campgrounds that they regulate under state law. Did have some good communications with the Department of Health. They were open. Sturgis City Council amending the temporary camping ordinance, but they would like to be involved in that process just to ensure, as it mentions in the report, that there is some health, safety, welfare permitting requirements for these kind of activities. Also communicated with the Department of Revenue about what the triggers would be for a sales tax license. That's referenced in the report. And then just tried to work through if the council, whichever direction it wanted to go, if it wanted to stay, some of the procedures that staff would begin working on, probably a public information campaign towards what the current ordinance is, allowing people to get their sales tax licenses, talking about the permit, putting together that permit for people to apply, or if there's a change, what that would potentially look like. Some of the factors that staff had identified of what kinds of health, safety, welfare things we would want to go through and what the appropriate procedure would be, likely a conditional use permit.
thank you, Eric.
Option 2 kind of seems to be what some of us were looking for.
And there, if the council decides to go with option 2, of course, there's a lot of different directions that we can go with that. But what we suggested was a small update and a permitting process to go with that.
Yeah, I kind of like 2, just looking at it. Again, I think it's great that we could open some to let some citizens make what they can off of it without ending up with, little mini Glencoe Buffalo Chip type campgrounds all over town. Something within reason, and still allow some people to benefit from their alley.
The most feedback I got was about the quiet hours, setting a limit on the amount of campers, or camp bees, or whatever you want to call them, and the owner occupied, keeping the owner occupied only, not.
Yeah, I think we have to be really aware of neighbors, being able to maintain some sort of control. Or limitations, I guess.
Awful quiet.
I'd be in support of option 2, looking to amend the current ordinance to allow limited public camping, so that we create a legal and regulated pathway for what a lot of people already do within city limits, which would enhance public safety oversight when it comes to sanitation, fire and police access, quiet hours, all that stuff, yes. And then also be able to generate economic benefits that keep them within city limits, keep the rally revenue local.
Is that a motion?
So I would motion that we amend the ordinance to allow limited public camping. And I guess in that motion, would it be correct to say, to ask the attorney or staff to put together a framework for the ordinance committee to work on at the next meeting to come forward with an ordinance?
Happy to do that. I think there's a few different ways to do it. If the council wants to keep it in-house and not refer it to the ordinance committee, I could have a draft to you probably in a month or so, but otherwise I would probably work up some sort of draft focused on option 2, and then kind of start to narrow what that looks like, maybe in outline form, and present that to the ordinance committee with a draft of the ordinance. Let them work that through. We would have the ability to have a town hall or a public hearing on that to accept some public comment, throw that draft into the packet, and then have a more at-length discussion about some of the regulations that we would come up with in that process. So I guess that would be my request, is that if the council wants to see the ordinance committee workshop this a little bit, that I would prepare something in advance for them. I'm not sure yet if it would be more of a detailed outline or into a draft ordinance form. It can be either way. Present that to them, let them work it up, and then bring it back to the council with a more detailed report.
Whichever would be. Did you have something to say?
I was just going to say, please restate your motion.
okay.
If you know, to
Yeah.
make that clear.
What would be most efficient and effective
Wait for
and
a
serve?
motion in a second. We'll have discussion after.
What would be most efficient and effective and still meet everybody's needs up here, as well as the public? To have it come to the meeting 2 from now? You said in about a month, or ordinance committee take longer?
I'm not entirely sure how long it's going to take me to get the draft done. There's a few other pressing projects that need to be advanced first, and then the question would be whether or not it goes to the ordinance committee.
I'm not sure I got my question answered.
Well, with that, can the public start taking reservations for their campground if we select option 2 tonight?
Not until there's an ordinance in place.
Okay.
I mean, I should restate that. I don't have any control over what the public does with their reservations, but the current intention would be to enforce the ordinance as currently written.
Well, and I would hate for people to start, I mean, we don't have a number, we don't have a, somebody takes 25 reservations and the number's 10 or 15 or whatever. I would hate to get into a situation where.
Forgive me, when does the ordinance committee meet next?
I don't recall, I'm sorry.
First part of November, I believe.
Yeah, the October meeting was canceled sometime in November, which disappoints me personally. I had hoped that we would be started on this, and I'm disappointed that we're even voting on this tonight. I would think that the public input is important, and we may have gotten phone calls, but I think the public input to this especially, I mean, ordinances in general, but this especially affects both the person who's doing the renting as well as the people that live next door. And I think that we need to have plenty of input on that if we're going to do it. rather than arbitrarily deciding. And I really admire Eric. I have no question. I'm not a problem with that. I think that, like you suggested, number 2 sounds good, but that's without any public input.
Well, I don't think with respect, I don't think we're making an arbitrary decision. We're not changing the ordinance and writing it tonight unless somebody already has something written out and they're ready to go ahead and go with it. I don't. I think what we're doing tonight is figuring out the process to what the next step is and deciding if we even want to amend it or not. And I would make a motion that we go with option 2 and amend the current ordinance to expand to allow public camping. And I would be inclined to send it to the ordinance committee that meets in the beginning of November and then it doesn't get rescheduled. So then we can have something put together to have for the meeting that follows that meeting. And then
Yeah.
Okay, so your motion
that
is
was a lot of words.
to-
Sorry, I did not. Was not very
Option
concise.
2 with consideration by the ordinance.
Yes, thank you.
I would second that.
Okay, we've got a first by Ruth, a second by Tony to approve option 2 with consideration by the ordinance committee. Is there any further discussion by council? Well, members of the public, please.
Okay, my name's Elizabeth Bartlett. I'm Ward 3, and I do, pretty much what I do is I find renters for the rally, and I have repeat, clients, anywhere from businesses like Harley Davidson from different states to bartenders to waitresses to elderly who just want to come and ride their bikes and sit in the backyard and have a bonfire or a barbecue in the evening. And my big thing is I really want to emphasize to each and every one of you that I really think there should be a subcommittee on this because, and I've emailed and messaged a few people, that I would be willing to do it because I've done this for several years. So I kind of know the ins and outs and I know like the floodplains and everything like that. But I agree with what Ruth said. I think, what is it, option 2 is the way to, I think that's the best one out of all of them. But I really do think there should be a subcommittee, plain and simple. There needs to be a broader spectrum of people. I know that there's great people that are on the ordinance committee, but there needs to be some sort of subcommittee that actually does this and has some knowledge that can put some input in it and whether it's, I'm not self-serving, but I got to tell you, in March, and I'll make this really, really fast. In March, I was ready to go full blown, get a job. I was going to try and get a job with the city. And I had to get a knee replacement. Now I've got a shattered, shin. And by myself living in Sturgis and doing all this stuff, I was able to pay my bills through January. So this is very important because just by renting 2, which I never do, this is the first year I did, not my own house, but other people's houses, their yards, I was able to pay my utility bills. My whole utility bill is paid through January. So it's really, really important to me that we have a subcommittee that knows what they're talking about, that has expertise on this, that has actually dealt with it, knows issues with neighbors, who has had problems with neighbors, who hasn't, who has de-escalated things, and I guess that's all I really have to say. But I'm really, really passionate on this.
Yeah, well, thank you, Elizabeth. We do have the ability for subcommittees through the ordinance committee, and they very well could want to go that route on this, so.
Okay.
Good comments.
Thank you so
And,
much.
and I'll add to that too, if you don't mind. Because it sounds to me like what your concern is to make sure that we are making an educated decision based off of all the information from the people who have the experience with camping in town and things like that too. I can tell you and assure you that all the people on the ordinance committee, myself included, don't want to ever operate within a vacuum.
Right.
I am always happy to take plenty of information, whether or not we actually form a subcommittee or not. I don't know what everyone's going to want to do, but I would like to assure you that we're not going to operate within a vacuum. We don't think that us as the ordinance committee are the be-all and end-all and know all the things about our ordinances and the way things should operate.
And I so respect you for saying that, but I'm already getting calls. And a lot of the girls have already paid for this year, but I'm already getting calls. So in November, normally I get about 60% of the rentals are done. And January 31st, I cut it off. They either pay or it's cut off. So like I'm crunch here. So I guess we all are. But so that's really just, I really wanted to express that to you that, I do have, even if I have to email you or, I'm here. I have expertise in this. I'm educated on this. I've got a lot of expertise on this, and I've dealt with neighbors. I've dealt with everything that you could even imagine. So, I really urge the council to do a subcommittee, even though you said, you're not going to operate but I really think there should be a subcommittee. I really, really do. And with that, thank you so much, Mayor and the council. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience have a comment they'd like to make at this point on the motion? Bonnie?
I haven't had the knee surgery. Sometimes I get concerned about the rate at which things move here. Most people have concerns that it goes too slowly, and sometimes I think it goes too quickly. I was a little nervous about this and moving to a motion because I felt like that was a little premature, but Ruth, I appreciate what you've said. There is a lot to be considered. I have no expertise, I have only experience. But I do want to be heard as this gets put together because I think there are a lot of subtle things about doing this and using our properties in this way that need to be heard and need to be considered. And unless you do it, you would not be aware of that at all. And I'm not sure that the people on the ordinance committee have that awareness. So I would certainly hope that it's one thing to say that with or without a subcommittee, there will be input. And sometimes that's the intent, but sometimes the access to that input just doesn't happen. So I just want to go on file as saying, let's make sure the input happens. And to tuck it away someplace in the newspaper or the website and hope we do or don't see it is not the way to go. I think this is pretty important to a number of us. So I hope that the people who are putting it together will be reaching out, not waiting for us to storm the wall. So that's my spot. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Christina Bean. I just have a couple of questions for clarification. I also want to echo what Bonnie had said. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Is this, yeah, I'm sorry. In that excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, so the motion is to move forward with making amendments to the current ordinance. And I believe and want to clarify that in that, until there's any changes, the current ordinance is in effect and being enforced. Is that, am I correct in that understanding?
It's in effect for sure. To what extent it'll be enforced in the, I can't speak to that.
Right. So in the in echoing the concern for time, because new ordinances and changing ordinance do take a significant amount of time. There's a legislative process that has to go through. Whether or not it will be complete come rally is, I'm guessing, unknown. But with that, I have to ask that while we're having the current ordinance in place, how are we on the permit and application for relief of the provisions within that ordinance? Where are we on that?
Staff is still working through the permitting process but to be clear, there is nothing in the permitting process that can allow more than one public site on a property.
Completely understood and heard. Once we understood the distinct difference between public and private camping, we had removed our website and are not advertising public. It's very clear that that is not governed, and it is very clear that that is not something that you could receive relief from. However, we don't just have public parking, public camping, sorry. We do also have a significant amount of family members that come to visit us. Daniel has several aunts and uncles that come out, and then we also have lots of friends that have wanted to come out to Sturgis, or they have become friends over years and everything. So in that, we would and could, under the current ordinance, offer private invitation only, but then we would still need to seek a variance under some of those provisions, is my current understanding, and then therefore I would need that application. So when will it become available?
I can't say exactly when it'll be available or when it'll be presented to the council. Part of the process was determining which direction the council wanted to go. We'll probably work that through the ordinance committee as well.
Okay. And I do, my last question or point for consideration is that I do think that the public has a lot to say and a lot of opinions and do want to be heard. Is it possible, or would you consider doing some kind of informative thing, asking the public to voice their concerns, which I know that they should know that they could do that, but I feel like it would be important maybe to at least do a Facebook post or something on the Sturgis website saying that this is a consideration, and if you would like your voice to be heard in the process of amending the ordinance, it would be encouraged to do so. That's all.
reasonable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I give you like 12 seconds? Okay,
12 seconds.
12 seconds, I'll be quick. Okay, so I know the proposed, what Ruth proposed, but I just want to throw this out here. There was a ordinance 18 years ago that you can find in the minutes, the council minutes. So I just want to throw this out here. If we can't come to a resolution in time for everybody to book and the citizen to profit, could we possibly, let's just throw this out there, go back to that ordinance, that original ordinance before it got changed? Because I know it's in the city council minutes because I found it like 3 days ago.
Well, that'd take the same process as amending this ordinance. I mean,
Well,
first reading, second readings, publish in the paper so many days afterwards. So, I mean, that's not I mean, it might be a little bit more expedient than going through the full process, but it was changed for a reason, I guess. So, hopefully we can work through this quickly and have a decision made, you know, sometime shortly after the first of the year. I don't see, I mean,
okay.
it's not like we're in December already. I mean,
I know, I'm just starting to stress.
Still October.
I'm just getting phone calls and I'm just starting to get stressed. So thank you for hearing me. And with that, have a good night.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a comment? All right, no more comments from the public. Anything else from council? Let's restate the motion. Ruth, you had a first.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make me say it again. I was like,
To option 2, with inclusion of the ordinance committee.
yes, option 2, to amend the current ordinance to allow in some way, shape, or form public camping on, we can refer back to the recording, because I don't remember my words exactly.
We don't have,
She'd
what
have
I understand the motion to be is that the council wants to advance a possible amendment to the temporary camping ordinance. The city attorney's going to prepare an expanded report with some recommendations on what the outline of an amended ordinance could look like, and then forward that on to the ordinance committee for them to work up and discuss and bring a recommendation back to the council, who will then take further action to potentially include public input.
That's exactly what I said, word for word.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was seconded by Tony.
That is correct.
Okay.
It's going to be up to the council on what it wants to do.
There,
Very good.
The council will be acting on
Yes,
it
there will
in
be public input in some way, shape, or form, whether it's,
session.
yes. Does that satisfy? Okay.
Okay, so motion's clear. First and second are right. Any further discussion? We'll call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That carried unanimously. Item 12.6 is first reading of ordinance number 2025-2, an ordinance granting MDU a franchise to operate gas transmission and distribution system in the city limits of Sturgis. This is a renewal. I know we can't add this, but, you know, if we could, I'd sure put into there that they were more responsive to doing their repair work on returning asphalt, but we'll take that up at a different time.
I guess I get this one, even though it's not really in my wheelhouse. I suppose it should be more Rick, but I'm the one who's fielding this one in the communications with MDU. You're right, Mayor. Our 20-year franchise with MDU is expiring. Just for the council's benefit, under state law, when utility companies are operating in our right-of-way, on our rights-of-way, the way to handle that is through utility franchise. Sturgis gave MDU a utility franchise to operate its gas distribution network below our streets and our other rights-of-way. Back about 20 years ago, that's expiring. They would like to renew it. There's nothing significant that's changed. I have had good communications with the gentleman from MDU who is advancing this. He is going to get the appropriate staff member to come visit with us. We're going to touch base just on some of the repair work and the city's good working relationship with MDU. So we're going to take this as an opportunity to review those procedures, sit down with MDU, go through it. Like all ordinances, this requires a first and second reading. So my anticipation that we'll do first reading tonight, second reading in 2 weeks, and then effective in 21 days.
Thank you, Eric. Any comments from council? Someone willing to motion this?
I'll move to approve.
First by Mark, a second by Jim to approve the first reading of ordinance 2025 granting MDU a franchise to operate gas transmission and distribution system within the city of Sturgis. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That's carried unanimously. 12.7 is consideration to approve an SEL for Loud American Roadhouse for the annual tree lighting ceremony, November 29th.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's SEL is for the Loud American Roadhouse for the Chamber's annual tree lighting ceremony with holiday giveaway, music, treats, and games. The tree lighting will take place at the Harley-Davidson Rally Point on November 29th, 2025 from 6 to 7 p.m.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
First by Terry, a second by Nick to approve the SEL for Loud American for the tree lighting ceremony. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That's carried unanimously. 12.8, surplus property disposal.
And I guess I get this one too, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with me, but it does in a way because it deals with the laws having to do with the surplus of property. So as with most of the things that are advancing through City Hall right now, we're taking an opportunity to review our procedures, review state law, do some information and education with both the council and the public. Staff has identified certain items of personal property that the city no longer needs and that we need to get rid of in various ways, either selling it, trading it, destroying it. And the way that South Dakota law provides for us to do that is to pass a resolution declaring those items surplus. This would be the first step in the procedure, is to declare the items surplus and to appoint the appraisers. The appraisers would then go appraise the property, file an appraisal report with the finance officer. Staff would look at that and then recommend a disposition for all the various property that's listed on the exhibit. Some of these items would be likely destroyed, including the old medical equipment, some of the old medical equipment from Sturgis Ambulance Service. Other things would be sent back to manufacturers for recycling, things with value over $2,500. There's a certain state law disposition path. Under that value, there's a different state law disposition path to include a public auction and private sale. So the next thing we'd come back after the appraisal is a recommendation for final council action on how these items will be sold, traded, or disposed of. The only unresolved issue is we are required to appoint appraisers. The only guidance in law is that the appraisers need to be real property owners within the city. There is no probe that could be staff, it could be council. There are already some limitations on staff and council and officers purchasing items other than by public auction. And it could also just be members of the community. The other option that state law gives us is to hire a fee appraiser to come in and appraise this stuff. Probably not the recommended course of action. There are contractors that you can hire for such things that usually engage on things like partnership dissolutions or divorces and separations where personal property needs to be valued. I think it would probably be more economical and just make sense to have 3 real property owners complete the appraisal, and the council can appoint whomever wishes for that.
Very good, thank you.
And my only request is if we pass resolution 2025-35 that the names be inserted before then.
So whoever would be inclined to motion resolution 2025-35 needs to include 3 names of appraisers.
And that said, we can come back in 2 weeks if the council wants to go out to the public and see if there are volunteers of people who would like to do this.
I would think that would be good. You know, I don't want to just point at somebody and, I mean, I have no idea what.
I see more than 3 residents in the audience here.
What happens if you have somebody that wants to buy something and it's higher than the appraisal? Are you gonna sell it? I mean.
Tammy, I don't have the answer to that right now. The question, I haven't gone farther than step 1 in this process. Yeah. The state law covers it. It's all covered in state law and it's all covered in the bid book. I'm not sure. That would be fine. We can just hold off on the resolution. Perhaps the mayor and Aaron can identify some people, find appraisers, and then we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
So would we move to table this then?
We can either move to table it and pick it back up, or we can just take no action on it. What was the question? I'm sorry, I misheard.
Is next meeting enough time for you?
Yes.
I would motion to table this to the next meeting.
Second.
Got a first by Nick, a second by Alex to table to our next meeting. Of course, that would be the first item of action on our next agenda. So the work is to find 3 property owners to act as appraisers. Yes, Bonnie?
Are you limited to 3?
Too many cooks in the kitchen might be.
It might be. State law does say 3. I don't know if it's a limit.
Is it a limit or a minimum?
I don't,
I just look at the list and I think, you know, are there 3 people? Can you get all of this expertise out of 3 people? I mean, you know, you're looking at motorcycles, you're looking at computers, you're looking at, I'm just questioning, do you need to look at the list more definitively and say, we'd like to appoint this person to do this group of appraisals and this person to do those?
state law says,
Wondered if you were limited to 3.
state law says shall appoint 3 property owners in the political subdivision to appraise the value of such property. Otherwise, the choice would be to engage a licensed fee appraiser.
I would think that we could find auctioneers in this town that understand prices and ask that.
Any further discussion on the motion? Motion is to table till the next meeting. We'll call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That's carried unanimously. We'll be seeing that on the agenda first up at our next meeting. Last item on the agenda tonight is the 2025 year-to-date revenue and expense report.
Did everyone get a chance to look at the report, at the actual numbers to to see if everything looks good to you? As looking through, the expenditures are I looked at just total budget and not each line item. And the total budgets, they are all in line, except I have 4 of them that I want to keep track of. I'm going to keep tabs on. And those are the buildings, sponsorship, community center, and police. They're close. They're over.
The IT budget's in hot water as well.
Okay, right. Okay, yep. And at this point, the budget should be 75%. And so I've went through, and on the revenues, they are they're a little low, but we've got that second payment coming in from the county property taxes. Excuse me. I did notice, and I figured there would be a question on this. There's professional fees from, it was in mayor and council. Let me find it here quick. I should have marked it. There it is. And what it was when I discovered it, their mayor and council was 354% over on their budget. Okay, so what I did, I went and looked at it, and we have a utility coming out of there. Sorry, I'm stumbling. We had a utility coming out of there, so I will get that moved, and so that will change that.
Right.
And that will. It's out of auditorium. Excuse me. I thought it was mayor and council. Auditorium. Other than that, I didn't see anything else that was huge out of whack. But
well, we're making headway on our
we're making headway.
Reconciliation. It looks like
the revenues are in. We're up to date there. We're month to month now. I've got a few things to balance, but other than that, we are probably 95%.
Yeah, a little bit
With
of
all that.
internal adjustment. I mean, I noticed a few things. E-commerce shows up for
Right.
almost everything that
Right.
we
There are
ran
things
across.
with that e-commerce, I think I've mentioned it before. There's a lot of stuff that's dumped in there, and I want to get that switched so that we've got the mayor and council,
Sales.
the brick sales, there was one other. Nope, merchandise that goes in there.
So there's still some additional
There's
work
some-
that's happening.
right.
I guess for me, the important point is we do have some budgets that are running hot. And we got to be watching those as we come into December, because we have to potentially make supplements to those budgets
Yep.
unless we can cover that through contingency. But we don't know what the bottom line is unless we pull that tightly. And of course, along with that is what's the means of finance if contingency doesn't cover that.
Right.
So you don't get to let off the gas, Ann, I'm sorry.
I guess a concern I would have is probably where we're most at risk is in the ambulance, that enterprise fund. The first couple months, we didn't get all the stuff that we got out from the VA hospital, so we're probably going to be short. Right now, we were anticipating being 160,000 short, looking at the 2025 budget, but we'll be more than that. If there's a saving grace, and it's not so much for us because we've been, putting a lot of hours in, all of us, but in terms of we're saving a lot of money this year. If you look at where we were this time last year to where we're at right now, we're about $700,000 below our execution for personnel. Makes sense. We don't have a rallying events department anymore, and there was 3 people there. Our planning and permitting department, when I first came on board, was vacated with retirements and some moves. We do have a person that's working there half-time right now, kind of keeping the lights on, doing the building inspections. As the mayor talked about, we didn't have the human resources for the half a year. We didn't have a city attorney until just recently. So tough for us because we've been trying to fill the gaps with the staff that we have. But one advantage is that it does our cost is down on the personnel side of it, because we're probably going to need that cushion when it comes into the end of the year, particularly when we're talking about the ambulance. Now, good news is we've implemented the third-party billing, and you guys are all aware of that, improved that. That's being very successful. Done a good job of working with them and maximizing and being efficient and putting new standards in place. We go into 2026, I feel it's going to be very much a turnaround. I think if anything, they'll have some cushion at the end of the year and not necessarily being in the hole. But just to be completely transparent, I just want you guys to know that I'm a little concerned about that budget in 2025. I do think we can cover it based on our lower performance in other areas in 2025 in our general fund.
Thank you, Aaron. And that, to pull that into perspective, that came from the first third of the year and was associated with billings that wasn't completed on time to the federal agencies.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And one of the things that Aiden has implemented is that once they get done with a mission, they submit their billing right away. And there's some times where that billing's already being actioned, within just hours. Instead of waiting for a period of time, they're really being very aggressive. Why that's important, one of them is with the VA. If you get your bill to the VA within the first 30 days, you'll get 100% of your payment. If you're outside that 30 days, you won't get nothing. And we had that during the first third of the year where we were providing mission support to the VA, but we weren't billing it within the proper amount of time, and so that money is not to be had. But again, that's one thing Aiden really quick fixed when he first got on board, and I think the process is in place right now. It's just going to take some time for that to be able to kind of show itself.
Any questions or comments on the 2025 year-to-date revenue and expense reports? We're going to be seeing more of these now. at least for a while. Our ordinance says it's monthly, but, you know, once we kind of get things settled out, and the ordinances get amended, you know, maybe that works as a quarterly thing or something that is, you know, matches up a little bit better, but, for right now, I think it's important to make sure we get those monthly to see what those burn rates are, and so that the council can understand where the citizens' money is being spent. No questions on that? No questions from the public on that? You know, we are looking for appraisers, so,
The ambulance thing, so obviously money wasn't being collected in the past. Are those people gonna be held accountable?
that's unknown right now. Question was, uncollected dollars from previous leadership in the ambulance service, are they to be held accountable?
Or even the people that were running the service, are they gonna be held accountable?
Those are all good questions. We're trying to sort out how we can keep the ambulance service afloat right now, and the rest will come. Unless you have it, do you have any other input on that? All right. That takes us to item 13, executive session. I don't believe we have a need for executive session tonight.
I don't.
So with that, we are at the end of our meeting agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
First by Alex, second by Jim to adjourn. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.